Hey everyone, Chris of Midlife Crisis Media here. Welcome to Recent Pickups number 108. This is everything I've added to my physical media collection during the month of April 2026, as well as my pickups and experiences at the Midwest Gaming Classic, which just happened this past weekend in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was a very long weekend. It was very fun, tiring, frustrating. I'll get into it when I get there. But how's everybody doing tonight? So tonight I'm going to have everything separated into piles of where I got them from. So we'll start off with, what is up, Dan? How's it going? I'm going to have everything separated into what I picked up outside of the convention, everything beforehand. Then we'll go into the things I picked up while at the convention. And it's going to cover a wide array of things because I didn't just limit myself to video games this year. I actually kind of went a little crazy in other areas too. So, okay, so when it comes to things I picked up outside of the convention before the Midwest Gaming Classic, we'll start off with the books. And I've got quite a lot. Actually, one thing we'll start off with is something that just showed up today. I had ordered it on Etsy last week. I want to say it was probably on Wednesday. And I've been looking for something to customize my car a little bit to make it a little bit more me. And I saw this on Etsy, and it wasn't super cheap. It wasn't expensive, but when it showed up, I'm like, it's really flimsy. But, I mean, it'll get the job done. And it is a license plate cover for Encom from Tron, the company that Kevin Flynn owns. So, yeah, there's that. Like I said, it's very flimsy and thin. But, I mean, like I said, it'll get the job done. It's better than having the place where I got my car from, around the license plate, the name of the dealer. But outside of that, now we can get into the books. So I'll talk about those last. One thing that I have been wanting to pick up for a while, but it was super freaking expensive for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe there wasn't a lot of copies released, but it got like a re-release within the last month or two. And like Amazon like was like, hey, this thing that you had in your wish list, is back in stock. And I'm like, oh, what is it? And I go and look, and it's this with a completely different cover. But I picked it up. It was like $17, and it is this Alien 3 novelization. It's not what you think. It is the unproduced script for Alien 3 that was written by William Gibson, the godfather of cyberpunk, the guy who created Johnny Mnemonic, created the whole genre, basically. He wrote the first screenplay that was commissioned for the film. It was thrown out because it did not feature Ripley in it a whole lot. It mostly focused on Newt and Hicks. And the Fox did not like that, even though I think that Sigourney Weaver was kind of happy that she would be paid a lot of money barely be in a film, but obviously everyone goes there to see Ripley, so it was thrown out. So this is the novelization of the first draft script that Gibson wrote for the film, and I'm a big Alien 3 fan, so I had to have that. Like I said, for some reason it got like reprinted in this new edition. It was like in a regular hardcover sized originally, and now it's like in this smaller version. In March, I picked up the other book in this series, and it is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. There's 2 prequel books released before Honor Among Thieves was released theatrically. The one that I picked up last month was all about Doric, the druid character, who was separate from everyone else in the movie. Like, she was the only one who did not know any of the people in the party. This one is about everybody else. This one's about Edgin. That was Chris Pine. It's about Holga, Simon, Forge, what they were doing before the movie happened. And I like the movie so much. I like the characters so much. I was like, I think I need to read these and get some more backstory on the characters. So ordered this one as soon as I found out it existed. This one is funny. So years ago, I found a book based on it was kind of like a sequel to one of my favorite films, and because of that fact, I immediately purchased it, not realizing that it was actually would have counted as part 3 if it was a film in the series. So I have been buying so many books lately that I downloaded an app for my phone where I can categorize or have like a list of all the books I own, so I'm not buying doubles, because it's happened before. So as I'm entering all my books into this app, I get to this book, or the book that I have from this series, and it says that it is part 3 in like the series. Like, it would have been part 3 if it was a film of a there was 2 books that were released, and I bought the second one. So I ended up going and buying what would have been the one that came out earlier, and it is Big Trouble in Little China, Big Trouble in Mother Russia. The one that I had purchased previously was Big Trouble in Ye Old England. And like I said, I thought that was the only one released. No, there was 2 of them released like side by side, and I did not even realize that until I looked at that app. So immediately went onto eBay and bought a copy of this, and has all the characters from the movie in it. Jack Burton, Wong, Gracie Law, Egg Chen, all of them, and they go to Russia to take care of another supernatural creature. And the third one obviously takes place in England. So had to get that. Can't wait to sit down and read these, because I was like flipping through it and reading some of the parts, and it is pretty funny. It does capture the spirit of the movie. And then, because of looking up the Alien book on Amazon, these got suggested to me, and I was like, son of a bitch. I'm like, God damn it. I want to buy games and movies for my collection, but all I'm buying are freaking books, because a lot of awesome stuff seems to have been coming out recently. So I ordered both of these. And these 2 are based off of one of my favorite horror films of the 80s. So I immediately had to purchase them. And one is Fright Night Origins. This is all about, I do believe, Jerry Dandridge. No, it's all about Charlie Brewster. Charlie Brewster is a teenage horror fan who's trying to keep his life together, still mourning the loss of his father, navigating his first serious relationship with the headstrong Amy Peterson, and failing trigonometry. But then late one night, while studying in his room, he sees something strange in the yard next door. Two men. Oh, so this is actually the novelization of the movie. No, I left my glasses in the other room. Son of a bitch. I didn't realize that. I thought this was like a prequel. Okay, so this is the novelization of the film, probably based off of the screenplay written by Tom Holland here, who has his name on the book. But that's awesome. I love the movie. I would definitely read a novelization of that, even though it's like 40 years later. But the other one that I really wanted is like the sequel to that, and it is called Fright Night Aftermath. And this is Fright Night 1.5. This is what happened after Charlie and Peter Vincent and Amy killed Jerry Dandridge, and what happened before Fright Night 2, the movie. And this says, Charlie, Peter, and Amy have survived the night, their battle with Jerry Dandridge, and even rescued Amy from his eternal embrace. Though the master vampire may have died in a conflagration, wow, a more sinister threat is rising from the ashes. An ancient tome that may hold the key to restoring Jerry to life has found its way into the hands of an unhinged teenage vampire. I wonder who that could be. If you've seen the movie, you know. What could possibly go wrong? Fright Night Aftermath is the second book in the series and is a direct sequel to the top-selling Fright Night Origins. I'm not Charlie, Peter, just Peter. What's up, Peter? And like I said, I'm a huge Fright Night fan. The first movie especially. The remake is pretty good too. I'm not that big of a fan of the second film. That was the sequel to the original film, or the sequel that came out direct to video for the remake, which was honestly like a remake of the remake. It was stupid. But I love the characters from the original film, so I had to get those. Awesomeness. How's it going, everybody? We missed you, Peter. We wish you came to the con. It would have been rad. And then these things well, I'll talk about this now. Okay, so on the way to the Midwest Gaming Classic. Should I even talk about these? I'll hold off and talk about this stuff when I get to the Midwest Gaming Classic, because that all has to do with that. How about that? Okay. Now we can get to the movies. One year you might make it. Just come on up, bro. Come to my place. We'll carpool. It'll be awesome. Okay, so when it comes to movies, only one Blu-ray this month, and it is a television set. It's from a Netflix show. You're going to be seeing a lot of this license in this stream tonight, I tell you. And it is the complete limited series of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. So this is the remake of the Scott Pilgrim versus the World movie that was made for Netflix. It's animated. It more closely follows the comic book series. I do believe there are 6 episodes of this because there were 6 volumes of the manga or the graphic novel series that it was based on. And not only that, but they brought the entire cast, I mean the entire freaking cast, back to voice their characters for this. The same characters they played in the live action movie, they're playing them here, which is awesome. I never got a chance to watch it, and I figured this would be the way to do it. Having a physical copy staring at me all the time is definitely incentive to pop it in and give it a watch. But I love Scott Pilgrim. I've read the graphic novels. I absolutely loved them. I've seen the movie many, many, many times. Even the vegan, yep, I'm pretty sure. Even the guy that played Superman, John, or what's his name, Rauch? Brandon Routh. Yeah, I think he is in this too. Yeah, it's everybody. Says Michael Cera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Kieran Culkin, Anna Kendrick, even Chris Evans comes back. I'm sure even Brie Larson is in here somewhere. Yeah, that's awesome that they were able to do that, because they've actually, like the filmmaker Edgar Wright has actually done like these online script readings way after the movie came out, where he got the entire cast back together like on Skype, and they reenacted the movie over Skype, every single one of them, which is awesome. So they obviously love these characters enough to want to keep playing them again, and it's great that he was able to have them come back and play them once more, which is rad. Okay, so now we can get into the 4Ks, and the first one I'm going to start with is something that I neglected to talk about last month. I bought this last month, and for some reason, I always So I know what I've been buying because like sometimes I get so many movies I cannot remember exactly what I have. I don't document them on social media like I do with the games. I write down a list every time a new movie shows up in the mail. I write it down on this pad of paper over here, so when it comes time to do a stream, I know what I need to go and grab. I never wrote this one down for March, so we're talking about it this month, and it is called Groove. It came out like in the mid '90s during all the big rave and like techno like dance party shit that was going on all the time. And it was kind of trying to be like Swingers or Go or one of those types of movies. I think this actually came out like in the like I think it came out like in 2000 actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, because I remember I was working at my previous job when this came out, so it must have been like 2000. But like I said, it was trying to be like Go. It was trying to be like a slice of life and like a night of these characters trying to get to this rave kind of thing, and the DJs that were producing it and that were going to be playing there and all that kind of stuff. And it was like shot with like really cheap film stock, and it looks really grainy and all that. So I'm really curious what the 4K was. But I remember renting it when it came out, and it was super fun. Not the movie I expected to see pop up on 4K. So when it showed up on Amazon as like being available for pre-order, I was like, I remember that. That was pretty rad. I mean, like, and I love the music in it. So I was like, it's like hackers type stuff. So had to get it. Forgot to write it down last month. I don't know why, but yeah. On Skype, that's crazy old. Yeah. It was like, I want to say probably 10 years ago they did that. I want to say it was like in the mid 2010s that they reenacted the entire movie on Skype, which is pretty cool. Now we can get to the stuff that showed up this month. First one is Runaway Train. So one of my collecting goals when it comes to movies, I've talked about this plenty of times, is want to get as many movies that were released by Canon or the Canon Group that are available in the format. And I've loved their stuff ever since I was a kid. The Break-In movies, the American Ninja movies, the Shokasugi Ninja movies that came out in the 80s, they were all Canon. Masters of the Universe starring Dolph Lundgren, that was Canon also. And this is probably one of the few movies that they've ever released that got any kind of Academy Award nominations. I do believe that both Jon Voight and Eric Roberts both got nominated for Best Actor and Supporting Actor for this. And it's about a couple of prisoners who escape from a prison, and they jump aboard a freight train, and I can't remember what happens to the driver of the train, but something happens and the train is going off not off the rails. I can't think of the term, but it's a runaway train. It's in the fucking title. Yeah, it's like they can't seem to slow it down, and they're all gonna die. And there's also like a technician on board. That's Rebecca De Mornay of all freaking people, and like the three of them have to team up to try to stop this train before they all die. And I remember seeing it back in, I want to say the 90s, I might have rented it, or maybe even the early 2000s. And I was like, this came from Canon. The guy who directed this made Tango and freaking Cash. And it got nominated for Oscars. And I remember watching it going like, this is pretty damn good. Like, I'm not a big fan of Eric Roberts, but Jesus, is he actually pretty decent in this? He's a little loopy, but whatever. So when I saw that it was coming out for 4K, I definitely had to pre-order it. Then the other one is one of my favorite movies from the 80s. Had to get this, even though it can be a little problematic nowadays. That is Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins. So this is based off a bunch of books that were called The Destroyer, which were kind of like an American James Bond knockoff about this this beat cop who was like killed on the job, wasn't really killed. He was made to look like he had died. And he was recruited in this secret organization to become like a super spy. And this is the origin story of the character. And they were hoping for a big franchise, just like James Bond, and it didn't happen. This bombed hard. Stars Fred Ward from the Tremors movies, the first two Tremors movies at least, playing the lead. And he's really good. And he's charismatic. He's fun to watch. Catherine what's her name? Blah, 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 blah. Kate Mulgrew, who played Captain Janeway on Voyager. She's his love interest in this. Wilford Brimley, the diabetes guy, is in this as well. He plays Remo's boss. And it also has Joel Grey in it, who is Jennifer Grey's dad. He was like a singing and dancing guy from Broadway. But for some reason, they thought it was a really good idea to make an old Jewish man and take an old Jewish man and make him up to look like an old Korean man. So a little problematic nowadays. He does get a lot of the great lines, but it's actually really, really fun. I still love it. I think it has a really fun soundtrack, and the action scenes are really kind of cool. Also a little gross. There's a lot of like it's one of those movies that's like rated PG, or is this PG-13? Yeah, it's PG-13. It's one of those movies that, they would be playing it during the day on cable like all the time, and I watched it pretty much every time it was on. But it was also a little nasty. Like Remo puts his fingers through a guy's eyeball in this one. Remo Williams is awesome. Love it. Yeah, I love it. It's one of my favorites. I wish we got sequels. I've actually, like, I want to say back in the 90s, they started releasing comic books based on the Destroyer novels, and I bought a bunch of them, and I was like, if the movie had succeeded, I mean, the books aren't as, at least the comic book I read weren't as tongue-in-cheek as the movie is. They put a little bit more humor in the movie, but I get it. But, like, the things the character does in those books would have been freaking awesome to see in another movie. Like, I would hope that at some point they would try to reboot the franchise and just call it the Destroyer. The Destroyer. I got the hiccups now. It'd be rad. Another one that showed up this month is Monty Python's Life of Brian. When it comes to the Monty Python movies that they made in the late 70s and early 80s, this was probably my least favorite, but I still think it's funny as hell. This one's kind of like the retelling of the story of Jesus, but what if the guy that played or is the Jesus figure is an idiot? It's actually pretty funny. The Always Look on the Bright Side of Life song that they sing when everyone's crucified at the end. It's just always, that cracks me up. The thing with the aliens too, it's weird. It's like a typical Monty Python something. But I watched this one, I want to say the least out of all of the ones that I have. So now I do have all three. There's Life of Brian, Meaning of Life, which I love. That one's like an anthology movie. It's just a whole bunch of little skits. And then there's Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which is my all-time favorite. Probably in my top 25 films of all time, I'd say, is Holy Grail. This one will probably get an unboxing because it's one of those Lionsgate Limited movies that is a steelbook, and it has that plastic slipcover that's covering up something that's on the steelbook. And that is The Ninth Gate. That's a big old picture of Johnny Depp there, ain't it? I don't even know if they have the name. Oh, yeah, Ninth. Yeah, it's scrawled in like different spaces, but it's The Ninth Gate. So this is from Roman Polanski. I saw this in the theater. So Depp plays this unique, like, what's it called? He's a book collector, and he scams people out of their collections a lot of the time. And then he gets wind that there's like this first edition of the Devil's Bible floating around. And then like he starts looking for it, and then weird things start happening, and then weird people start contacting him. This girl with her eyes keep changing colors keeps trying to come on to him, becomes like almost like a familiar, and just follows him around. Weird things happen. It's like a black comedy. It is technically a horror movie, but it's not necessarily scary. It's got creepy parts to it, but it's also really funny. Like Johnny Depp's character is kind of like a bungling idiot a lot of the times. And if you haven't seen it, there's one scene that happens towards the end that is one of the most like unexpectedly funny things I've ever seen. Like, it's this serious moment in the movie, and then like this person that it involves all of a sudden shows how much of a dumbass they are, and it kind of just like makes you go like, wait a minute, what? And I remember I had tears in my eyes watching that scene in the theater. And it has a very John Carpenter-y, like, ambiguous ending where it kind of like is what? Okay, did I see what just happened correctly, or am I like putting my own shit on it? Like, I'm sorry, what was that? What Johnny Depp film is that? It's called The Ninth Gate. So here's the cover, and let's see if there's anything revealed underneath. Yep, the devil. It's the woman that follows him around screaming. And you can kind of see the pentagram being formed by the burned pages. It's, like I said, funny. Like I said, there's creepy stuff in it. It's not gory in any way, but when I saw in the theater, the trailers made it out to be like a horror movie, like a straight up horror movie. And I was like, I'd love to see Johnny Depp in like a straight up horror movie. And then I go and see it, and it's like half comedy, half like thriller, like in supernatural thriller. So had to get that. I've had this on like pretty much every format available. But I like it that much. It's that much fun. And then this is a television set, I guess, that came from Arrow Video. And it has the television version and the film version on it. And that's the original Salem's Lot, the one from the 70s, based on a Stephen King novel, which is amazing. So the reason I wanted this is I had this on Blu-ray. I had it twice on Blu-ray now that I think about it. I had like a standard one that only had the theatrical movie version on it. And then I bought a steelbook off of Groove because it was like dirt cheap. And I was like, I'd rather have a steelbook version than the one that I have. So I got rid of it, but it only had the theatrical version on it. This has both. So it was a mini series, like a 2-night mini series on television in like 1975 or 6 or whatever it was. Is that what it is? 75, I think. Yeah. And then overseas, it got a theatrical release, but it was edited down from like 3 hours because it was like 2-hour. It was, each night it was a 2-hour event. It was edited down to like 90 minutes for the theatrical version. And it's not great. A lot of the like character development and everything got cut out. So the theatrical or the television version is the way to go. So I had to pick this up, especially now that it's on 4K. And it comes with the movie with a sticker, Salem's Lot, population 2013, elevation 298 meters. I don't know if that's supposed to be meters. But if you haven't seen the movie or heard of it or read the book, it's about a small town that gets invaded by a vampire. A vampire basically moves into town and starts changing the population, and it is very creepy. And they remade it like 2 or 3 years ago. Well, it was remade, I think, in 2020. It didn't actually get theatrical. It didn't get released theatrically at all. It was supposed to. It went straight to HBO Max, and it was not great, if you ask me. It starred Bill Pullman's son, Louis Pullman. Here's the original poster, and then I do believe this is the Italian one for the theatrical release. Did I fold that right? I don't think so. Yep. And it also has a book. That is one of the creepiest scenes in the movie. James Mason is in it. He plays the watchdog of the vampire. They did change some things in the book, or from the book to the television movie. The vampire actually in the book was more like an aristocrat guy. He looked normal, I guess, but because they want to get across that he's a vampire, they made him look kind of like Nosferatu instead in this, and he doesn't really talk all that much, but in the book he talked quite a bit. Also stars Bonnie Bedelia, John McClane's wife from the Die Hard films. I just saw a picture of her in here. Let me see if I can find it again. But there's a kid, kind of like Charlie Brewster in that Fright Night, who is the first person to understand what's going on and is trying to tell everybody. There's Bonnie Bedelia. She was really young. He's trying to tell everyone in town that there's a vampire that's moved in, and obviously nobody's going to believe him, except this one rando that just moved into town. And it's really, really good. It's directed by Tobe Hooper, who did Poltergeist and the first 2 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, Life Force. So really rad. I wanted to get this in my collection really badly. I pre-ordered it the day that it went up on Arrow's website. Okay, so that's it for films. We can get into the games that I've picked up this month. And we'll go by console release date just to keep it the way that I want to do the games from the convention. Okay, so first one, I just picked this up yesterday. I had a lot of money left over from the Midwest Gaming Classic. I was very good, even though I bought a lot of really expensive stuff during the convention. I was still pretty good. I did not blow everything. I was not like a couple of years, I want to say even last year I might have done it too, where I was just kind of like, no, I still got, X amount of money in my pocket. It's got to get spent. No, I was just kind of like, I remember like on Sunday, it was getting close to the closing of the con. I was there pretty much all day Sunday. Normally, like the previous year, I think I left before I was there for 2 hours. I think I left for like an hour and a half after getting there. This time, my friend came to visit and helped and hung out with me during the con. So I was there until I want to say almost 4:30, and then I left. But like there was a point where I just basically just said, you know what? I think I'm done with the con. I think I'm done buying stuff. I've got enough. And I was like, wow, am I growing up? But since I had so much money left over, I was like, well, you know what? I think the amount that I had in my pocket, I was like, is the amount that would cover this 32X game that I had seen at this local game store, the one that I always complain about, that has like the eBay prices. That was actually had a presence at the convention. They always do. I tend to not buy stuff from them because even though the store has eBay prices, it's even worse at the con, and they don't want to budge on price. So I was like, if they still have it, I'll go there on my lunch break. And I did that yesterday. I was like, I'll go there on my lunch break, and if they have it, I'll pick it up. And they did still have it. And that is RBI Baseball 95 for the 32X. This is like one of the more expensive games for the console. Not like a super, super expensive one. This used to be really pricey, like really, really pricey. And it came down quite a bit over the last couple of years, at least since I started collecting. Because I remember this was really like, I want to say like 300, 400. And it has definitely come down in price since then, thankfully, because I don't want to pay that much for like a freaking baseball game that I'll probably never play. But yeah, they still had it, and I was glad that I can add it to the collection. I'm getting pretty close to having everything. You'll see a few more during the stream today. But it looks just like any random Genesis game or Genesis baseball game you get at the time. So, yay. So thrilled. The rest are things that showed up from limited runs. So the first one is, the reason I had to buy this was because I'm a freaking idiot. Okay, so I don't know if I brought this up before, but I think it was like right before the end of the year. No, it was right before Black Friday. I wanted to have money to spend during Black Friday. Because I was going to go and visit my buddy Rocket Sauce Ryan from Wisconsin for Black Friday, and we're going to go game hunting all over the place. And I wanted to have some money, so I was like, I have so many PlayStation 4 games that I know I'm never going to play, so I pared down my PlayStation 4 collection quite a bit. I got rid of about, I think, 200 games. Also because I was running out of space, and I needed space for my PS5 stuff, and I was like, I needed to do this. So when I was going through the games, I was like, I already have I think like there was a new version of this coming out. At least that's what I thought it was. So I'm like, I can get rid of the version that I had previously bought from Limited Run, because this new version that's coming out is like the complete version. Like I said, that's what I thought. I should have just gone to my computer and checked what it was before I did that, because I had the collector's edition of it and I got rid of it. But I did get a lot of money for it. So when the new one was coming out, I went to the Limited Run website and I did a little research on what I still had waiting to ship for my collection, or for what I bought from them. And I saw it and I was just kind of like, I want to see what's extra on it. What is the EX version of this that I bought? Turns out it's a sequel. It's not the same game. It's a completely new game. I'm like, well, great. I just got rid of a game that I probably should have left in my collection because it's awesome. So I ended up just buying it again off of Amazon. It was not expensive. But that's Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game. And this is the complete edition. So I basically had to rebuy it, but now I don't have my fancy old collector's edition that came in a big old Genesis snap case with a couple of extras. Honestly, that thing just took up space. I'm just glad to have the game because that's all I really want. But it is a retro pixel beat 'em up that features characters that look like they do in the comic book and the graphic novels. And it's kind of like playing Turtles in Time a little bit. But you're picking up Canadian money all over the place whenever you beat somebody down, just like in the movie. So I had to get this back in my collection because, like I said, I'm a dum-dum. Which leads to the one that I thought was the better version of that showing up this month, and that is Scott Pilgrim EX. This is actually a sequel to that. It is more of the same. It is another beat 'em up, but this one has like animated cutscenes and stuff in it. But I absolutely love the first one, so I definitely had to get this, even though I thought it was, like I said, a better version of that. So can't wait to play through this one. It looks fantastic. Love the artwork too. I hear great things about the Scott Pilgrim games. They are, well, the first one is, I know that for a fact. I had that. I mean, I downloaded that, and I keep on talking about how I hate digital games, even though I have recently downloaded a few. But like that was one of the few download or digital download games I picked up on my PS3, and I played the shit out of it. And I've been saying for years, and I was so lucky that I never deleted it off my hard drive either because it got delisted. So it was pretty hard to key or pretty hard to find, be able to play and talk about. I can't talk tonight. I'm still tired from the convention. It was really hard to be able to talk to people about it because no one was able to go and download it to play it so they can have the experience that I had playing it. But I'm glad when when Limited Run said that they were going to release it on a physically or release it physically. Wow, my mouth is not moving like my brain wants it to. When I heard that Limited Run was going to release a physical version of the game, I was over the moon. I was so happy. And now we got a sequel. The next one is another limited run that I purchased, I don't know how long ago, and it finally showed up, and that is the Angry Video Game Nerd 8-Bit. This came from Retroware. But they had already released a game for like Steam and the consoles. I mean, Limited Run, I think, released that one also. That was pixel style, but I think it was more like trying to be 16-bit like wise, but this one is a little more 8-bit. This one looks like they're trying to go for like a whole Mega Man vibe, especially when you look at the character select screen up here for like the villains. But, I like the Angry Video Game Nerd, even though he's not as cool as he once was. I mean, his videos are way better presented and edited, and special effects, everything is better than it used to be, but they were more fun to watch back in the day. But, he's one of the few old school video game YouTubers that I still kind of like. So I had to get that. And then the big one that showed up earlier in the month is the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remaster for the PS5. I'm a huge fan of the Legacy of Kain. If you go back in my back catalog of episodes that I did for this YouTube channel, I did an episode that was like game franchises that need to make a comeback, and I definitely talked about Legacy of Kain in that video. I was like, I don't care if it's a new character, I don't care if it's Kain himself, I don't care if it's Raziel. I just want more games in that universe because they were awesome. I've loved every single one of them. So, because I'm such a big fan, I decided to pretty much order this is the only time I've ordered something of this magnitude from Limited Run. Normally, I go for like the mid-tier edition, if anything. Like I said, for the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, I bought like the special edition or whatever, and it just came like in a big Genesis snap case. Well, I bought the big-ass collector's edition for this. That comes in this big old box. Which is embossed and everything. This has both games in it, which I love. Don't get me wrong. I love them both. And this comes with a lot of crazy stuff. One of them just hit the ground. Fantastic. Although I think it's made out of metal, so it'll be okay. Shit. So one thing is this button. It's like, I think, the crest of Raziel. I can't remember what this was. It's been a long time since I played these games. But it's like a big old heavy metal pin. And I'll put everything over here, and I'll put this back together after the stream because this is big. It also comes with a steelbook for the game if you don't want to keep it in the standard snap case that it came with. So, steelbook. It's pretty cool. Excuse me. Also, let's see here. A comic book. This is Soul Reaver Fallen Brothers Belkaya. Okay. Looks pretty violent. I mean, it's kind of shitty that it's only like 6 pages long. It's like, all right, whatever. I'll put that back later. Put that back later. This comes with a lot of shit, guys. Also comes with the original soundtrack, and this is on 2 discs. It's a lot of music. Also comes with some cards. Character portraits. Okay. God damn, why is my throat so dry all of a sudden? There's that. There's this poster, which is actually a map. Move this so it's a map on one side, and on the other, it's like all the power-ups and stuff like that. Oh no, this is all the locations that are marked on the map. So this tells you what they are. So it's like the glossary. Off Cole. Also comes with a slide puzzle. Yay. What am I, 3 years old? Awesome. That's so cool, guys. That was so worth the price. But don't worry, guys. It's not over yet. Comic book. Another pin. And this one's like holographic. You can kind of see it moving. And then the big thing that it comes with. Here I'm sitting there going like, oh, does this come? I can't remember. Does this come with like a statue? Because when it showed up, I was like, oh man, I think this has a statue. I'm like, I can finally have a statue, like one of those big ones, based off of a video game that I love. Nope. What it comes with, the big thing, is a coffin that opens up. And it has like a little metal sword, like the sword that Raziel carries in the game. That is so cool, guys. I'm so happy I bought this. Yay! Where's the other side? Is it still in there? Yeah, it's still in there. So, probably won't be buying anything like this again from Limited Run. Unless it actually, so the thing about this is, I ordered this 1 year and 3 months ago, and it finally showed up. 1 year and 3 goddamn months. Eat a bag of dicks, Limited Run. You're drunk. So I'll put everything back in this box after the stream's over, so I'm not wasting time. Okay. So that's all the stuff that I picked. There's one more thing. Okay. So I had bought a bunch of these things, I think 1 year ago. There's only, I think, 3 of them. What's up, TJ? Sonic X Shadow Collector's Edition. What was wrong with that, TJ? Since I don't remember what it was. TJ, you're gonna love this. So I bought, I think three of them were released about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and I bought only two of them. I'm probably gonna go and get the other one now, just because I'm an OCD collector. And then I totally forgot that even more was released in this series, and I basically just went to the Walmart website and ordered every single freaking one of them. Where I'm going to keep these things, I have no freaking idea. Right now, I've been keeping them up here over where my you can't really see it, but I keep them lined up where I keep my Game Gear games. And it's these Sega Jax collector figures based on characters from the video games, and I bought them all. So first one is Gilius Thunderhead from Golden Axe, the dwarf character. So there's that. Also picked up the Were-Dragon from Altered Beast. They had already released the werewolf. That's the first form from the first stage, or the first thing you change into in the first stage. And the Were-Dragon is what you turn into in the second stage. So I'm assuming every wave that they release in this series is going to cover the next stage of Altered Beast. So there's a big old statue of Sonic and Shadow on a Dreamcast. Some were released and were horrible quality. Limited Run said that they were going to redo the statue, and now it's going on a year since you put money down on it. Those figures are cool. I think I got them all. Yeah, there was, I think, 5 released in this wave. So this one is pretty massive. I'm really happy about that. So like I said, I think each wave that they release is going to have like the next stage. So what is the next stage? The Were-Bear, I think. So that'd be pretty cool. So it's the werewolf, the Were-Dragon, the Were-Bear, the Were-Tiger, and then the golden werewolf, I think, for the final stage. Yeah, I've played video games before, guys. Next up is frickin' Roo from Streets of Rage 3. The frickin' kangaroo with boxing gloves and boxing trunks on. Oh, man. You couldn't give us Blaze? Or Adam? Come on. Get with it. Who wants Roo? I used to buy games from Limited Run all the time, but the lead time is... Yeah. Roo was a pain to find in the store. I just got it off the website. I just got it off of the Walmart website, and they shipped them all to me. Now, the only one I'm still needing is the one from the first wave, which is the Super Monkey Ball character. Yeah, I don't order as much as I do. There's certain ones that are coming out that I want. I mean, I think there's maybe 3 games that I'm still waiting on. One of them I think just shipped. I think it's my Jaws. That's probably the fastest I've ever gotten one of these things since they started doing the whole pre-order thing. Instead of like, here's how many copies we have, and we're going to put those 2 sell times on Friday. And if you don't get them, you don't get them. We have them in stock. This is how many we have. And once they're sold out, they're getting shipped out, and that's it. Since they started doing the pre-orders, I think this is the fastest I've ever gotten a game from them. I ordered it, I think, in February or whatever when they put it up for sale, and it's showing up next week, I think. Then there is Joe Musashi from Revenge of Shinobi. And I love that. Super freaking cool. Are we going to get like a knockoff Batman or knockoff Spider-Man character from this game also? Because that'll be cool. And then the last one is... What is this? Oh, Metal Virus Sonic. Did we even get a regular Sonic character in this line? I don't think so. But it also comes with... What is that, a frog? Yeah, Zombot Froggy? Sure. So this is number 11. Oh no, they're numbering them, but like they're out of order because they're, I guess, okay, that's strange. Okay, so that's that stuff. That's everything that I picked up outside of the convention. Now we can get straight into the convention. All right, so you don't have the Metal Virus Sonic yet? Froggy from Sonic Adventure? Yeah, I've never beaten Sonic Adventure. So the first arc of IDW's Sonic comic. See, I never read those. Okay, so this year I actually went down to Wisconsin, or I went up to Wisconsin. Directions. I went up to Wisconsin on Thursday night after work. I usually would go like Friday afternoon. I would take Friday off, pack, go to Half Price Books if I need to sell something before I go, which is usually what I do, and then drive up to Wisconsin to stay with my buddy Ryan Rocket Sauce from the Cartridge Club. This year he was like, "Hey, if you want to come on Thursday, we can order a pizza or something when you get here, and play some games or whatever." And then because on the Friday before the con, we usually go out game hunting around in the area. And he's like, if you come and stay the night on Thursday, we can just like wake up in the morning on Friday and just go instead of me having to wait for you to drive up here and all that. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. So Thursday before work, Thursday during work on my lunch break, I went to Half Price Books, sold a bunch of stuff that I had. It was like the Blu-rays that I had replaced with 4Ks in my collection. There was a couple of games that I was getting rid of that were like I'd replaced on the 360 with PS3 versions because my 360 doesn't work. And a couple of books that I had duplicates of. And I got a decent amount for that. And then I bought a book while I was there. So while I was waiting for them to tell me how much they were going to give me while they were going through everything that I had brought, I started looking around and I find this. And so I don't know if it was last month or the month before, I had bought a book by this author called Grady Hendrix, who was kind of like an up and coming popular horror author. And the book I had bought from him is called How to Sell a Haunted House, and it had come highly, highly recommended. Well, he's got 2 other books out there that sounded really, really cool, and I'd put them on my Amazon wish list. And while I was looking around the store, waiting for them to call my name to tell me how much money they were going to give me, I saw one of the books there for about half price, living up to their namesake, Half Price Books, compared to what it was selling for on Amazon. And that is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. And just like with How to Sell a Haunted House, it's kind of like a horror comedy. It's about a group of Southern women who find out that there's a vampire living in the town, and they try to get together to find out how to kill a vampire. And it sounded really, really entertaining. So I picked it up, and I cannot wait to sit down and read this guy's books because every one of these has come highly recommended. I think they've all been New York Times bestsellers. So pick that up while I was there. Okay. And that was that. Got my stuff, drove up to Wisconsin. I got there, I think, around like 8:30. And we went out and got food, played some games, whatever. So the next day, we go out game hunting. We went to Freak Toys, which is in Sheboygan. Usually I find stuff there, but we go there, and basically every single game that was there the last time I was there, which was probably Black Friday, was still there and nothing new. So didn't buy anything there. We went to the Mega Media Exchange or whatever it's called. It's a store that Captain Algebra works for, but it's another store in that franchise. That's where Ryan lives. And what did I buy there? I spent a whopping $2. No, I spent a whopping $1 there. And that was because they were selling a bunch of like Nintendo cartridge slip covers. And while I've been playing my Nintendo games fairly regularly recently, beat Jaws on the NES for the first time in probably 35 plus years, beat the Little Mermaid. Well, I pulled my Little Mermaid out. It didn't have a slip. So I was like, I need to find some slips. We go to the store. They have like 100 of them sitting there. Ryan bought like $15 worth. These were $0.25 each. So sure, I bought 4 of them because that's pretty much all I needed. And that's all I bought there. Then we go to this record store that Ryan, I've always forgotten the name of this record store whenever I brought it up in streams. It's called Record Head. It's a record store. They sell CDs, they sell vinyl. They have a big video game soundtracks on vinyl section. But they also sell instruments, and they also sell quite a lot of video games. And I usually find stuff when I go there. Didn't find a goddamn thing. So I'm like, this whole trip this day is like a bust. But I'm like not mad about it. I'm just kind of like, well, you know what? That's just more money I can spend when I go to the MGC the next day. And then we go, he's like, well, there's one other place. There's a half-price books nearby. We can see what they have. And we go to the video game section and nothing. Go to the comic book section. I was actually looking at the Dungeons and Dragons stuff that they have, and they had a good amount, but it was stuff that I see at every half-price books I go to. So I'm like, go to the book section while Ryan is looking at something else that he's interested in, and I lost my fucking mind. So I spent $100+ on books that day and nothing on video games. Actually, I should have talked about these when I was talking about this Southern Book Club Guide to Slaying Vampires. So I had the intention of selling these two things for my collection because last month I talked about this Ultimate Edition thing that I had bought. Well, after I bought it and I talked about it in the stream, I looked it up and it turns out that it only has it's these Star Trek mangas. I think TJ had asked about that also last month during the stream. So there are 4 volumes of manga available, and I thought every one of them was condensed into this Ultimate Edition that I bought. But then when it showed up, I was like, well, that's pretty slim for having 4 mangas, and they're this wide normally. They're this thick normally. And they managed to fit not only all 4 volumes into this book and an extra bonus story that you only get with that special edition. So I look it up, and no, it's like selected stories from the manga series. Not all of them. So I'm like, well, then I don't have everything. So I had these I was going to sell them, and then I changed my mind when I got there. So these are going back into my collection. And I got to find the other 2 now. Now, when it comes to what I picked up at that store, for the first arc, it was actually a good arc. Chris said I'd buy that for $1 and did. And I did. Ryan, I thought it was really funny because like I'm like, Ryan's like, how many of these do you have when it comes to the Nintendo cartridge slips? And the girl's like, we got a lot. We got a lot behind the counter. We got a lot in this case, which is where we saw we saw them originally, but they had more behind the counter. And Ryan, she's like, how many do you want? And Ryan goes, I want $15 worth. And she goes, oh, let me do some mathing really quick. And then I'm like, I did it on my phone real fast. And I'm like, he wants like, what was it? If they're a quarter each, I can't even remember what it was. We worked it out. And then she looks at me and I go, can I just get 4? And she's like, sure. And then we go to that record head place and they were selling them there too. And they were selling each of them for $2. And Ryan's like, see? He's like, they're always more expensive. That's why I jumped on them when I could, because they were cheap as hell. 60. Yeah, he got a lot. She basically gave him a box to carry them in. And I think if you look at Ryan's pickups picture that he posted on Instagram, that the box that she gave him with all of them in there is the picture, and all the stuff he bought is on top. Yeah, he got a lot. Okay, so I'm at this half-price books and I lose my goddamn mind. So we first walk in and they had like this discount paperback section, and the books were like in plastic baggies hanging on these hooks. And this one was right in front. And I was like, okay. And it's all new Star Trek 2. These are basically like novelization adaptations of the screenplays or the teleplays from episodes of the original Star Trek series. So this one has A Taste of Armageddon, Tomorrow is Yesterday, Errand of Mercy, Court Martial, Operation Annihilate, City on the Edge of Forever, which was considered basically the best episode of the show, and Space Seed, which is the Khan episode that led to Wrath of Khan, which is why I wanted it. So it's basically like novelization versions of screenplay, teleplays. So I was like, okay, that's cool. And this thing is from like the frickin' 60s or early 70s. And it's still in really good shape. But then I went to like the horror section and I found the other book from Grady Hendrix that I wanted. And it is The Final Girl Support Group. And that just sounds like a really fun idea for a book. So it's like a bunch of final girls that survived horror movie style massacres, like from Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all that kind of stuff. They have a support group where they sit there and they try to work out their problems and their trauma. and then somebody within the group starts stalking them. And I was like, that sounds like a lot of fun. So I've been wanting this one. I think this is the one I've been looking forward to picking up the most out of all of them. And they had it right there. And they had copies of this at the one by my work where I sold everything on Thursday. But both copies looked like the bindings had been broken and the dust cover was all shredded. So I was like, I'll skip them. Go to the one in Wisconsin, and they have like a pretty much brand new looking one sitting there. So I was like, I'll take that, please. Then the Star Wars stuff happened. I've been trying to. I had all. Well, this was from before the sequel Star Wars movies came out. I had all 6 books in this series, which were the 3 prequels and the 3 original films. Now they have released the 3 sequels as well. But I sold them because I was running out of space on my bookshelf. Well, now I have a whole new bookshelf, and I have space for all this, so I'm trying to get them back now. They had one of them there, and it is William Shakespeare's The Jedi Doth Return. I found the first 6 of these, like the prequels and the original film books in this series, when I was visiting my brother in LA. We went to a Barnes & Noble at the Grove, which is like where all the Hollywood celebs go to shop. And I did see a bunch of Hollywood celebs while I was there. I mean, shit, I walk into the science fiction section, and Dante Bosco, who played, who was the leader of the Lost Boys in Hook with the mohawk, who kept on doing the bangarang shit, he was there. He voices Zuko on the Last Airbender cartoon. He was standing right there with a couple of his friends looking at some of the books, and when I walked into the aisle, they basically looked at me thinking that I was like some kind of a crazed fan going like, ah! I just like walked in the aisle, and I was just like, the books, I want to see what they're like. Rufio, that was it, Rufio. He was standing there. I saw, what's her name? Jillian Jacobs from Community in the food court. She just walked right past me. I was just kind of like, oh, that's the girl from Community. That's cool. We saw, what's his name? Jeremy. He was on Law and Order. Oh, God, what's his name? Jeremy. He was also the villain in Hideaway. Jeremy. I keep on wanting to say Piven, but it's not Jeremy Piven. I can't remember. Sisto. Jeremy Sisto. We saw him in line at the Barnes & Noble. I think it was the second year that we went, and my mom was going to lose her fucking mind because she watched Law and Order all the time, and she was like, that's the guy from Law and Order. Me and my brother are like basically holding her back. We're like, look, he's with his goddamn kids. Do not make a goddamn scene. He doesn't need that shit. It's freaking Christmas. I'm like, leave him alone. And then we saw the guy that played Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2. The British guy. I cannot remember his name now. It's like on the tip of my tongue, too. We saw him walking with his wife through the parking lot with like she was carrying her shopping bags. Britta. She was there. And I was just kind of like, oh, look, it's Dr. Octopus. Okay, let's go get something to eat. But yeah, happy to get this back in my collection. I now have all of the original series or original films books. I have one from the sequels and one from the prequels. Now I just need to find the rest. But yeah, it's Shakespeare. Like it's the films retold as if they are William Shakespeare plays. And they are super funny. Just like the shit that comes out of this guy's mouth. I wish I had my glasses. Oh, heart, 'tis Luke. Oh, man. And then I can't believe I bought this back alley abortion of a novelization, but I did. But I bought the novelization of Rise of Skywalker. I fucking hate this movie. This is the expanded edition. Is the expanded edition going to make it better? No, I doubt it. But I have all the other ones. I have Last Jedi. I have Force Awakens. I have Solo. So I've decided to pick this one up. And the reason I think it was so cheap is this used to be like a library edition. Quality Family Library from Colhady, Wisconsin. Whatever. It's in my collection now because I'm being a completist, but whatever. Don't care. It's a piece of shit. But the one that I was really surprised of, I found this special limited edition of this one of Revenge of the Sith. And it's like got this heavy plastics like dust sleeve. like plastic and it's like see-through. So if I were to take this off, like you see through Vader to the fight on Mustafar, which is kind of cool. And it does have a few illustrations here and there, and it also has some like notes at the end of chapters. But the big thing is like the pages actually like have stuff on them. Like this is how it feels to be Anakin Skywalker forever. I did have originally I did have the novelizations of all of the prequel films, but once I read them, I was just kind of like, I don't see myself reading these ever again, so I got rid of them. But now that I'm collecting this stuff again, so I decided to pick that up and as a special edition. That's pretty awesome. But then the comic book section is where I was like, Ryan was looking at me like, what are you doing? I picked up, they had so many volumes of this comic book in hardcover form. I had I want to say 7 of them in my hand, and Ryan's just like, what are you doing? And then I eventually started putting them back because I started to look at the covers, and it was like a storyline that had been broken up into 3 volumes. They only had all 3 volumes of this storyline, but they only had book 2 of one or one of another in the other ones that I had in my hand. So I put all those back and I just bought these. But it's the Firefly. This is the Unification War series. And I got... Why did I put them like that? That's the front one. That's the first one. So there's volume 1, or part 1 of the Unification War, part 2, and part 3. So, super glad that I have these. I love Firefly. It's one of my favorite sci-fi anythings. There's talk of it possibly coming back now, and that gave me such a geek boner. You have no idea. I know Nathan Fillion was online. He did a video with the actress who played Kaylee, with Jewel State, with Gina Torres, with Alan Tudyk, and Summer Glau, and they were basically like, yeah, we're working to bring it back. I don't know what Alan Tudyk was thinking. His character's dead. But maybe he'll be in flashbacks or something. I don't know. But yeah, they're talking about bringing it back in some capacity, and it sounds like it's going to be like an animated show. I don't care. More Firefly is good. Bring it back. Oh, Marina Baccarin was there too. She's like, I'm down. So those are the books. Now we can get into the games and all. Okay, so here, I'll leave it to you guys. I have the games I bought. I have the miscellaneous stuff I bought. And then I have the stuff I got signed. Which ones do you want to see first? If I only had the ability to play the Final Jeopardy music. Signed stuff? Okay. So, you guys know me. I'm a Tron guy. So, I had just met the people that have signed these other things I will talk about next. And as I was walking past this table, this Tron thing was sitting right on the corner. It was like, remember, you like the Tron stuff. This is here for you, bro. And I went like, God damn it. I just spent a small fortune getting this other stuff signed. I guess I'm buying that too. So Paul Niemeyer, I think that's his last name, Niemeyer, who worked for Midway, did all the marquee artwork, the side artwork for all of the games that were coming out in the 80s and 90s for them. He designed the marquee for the Tron arcade game, and he had what do they call replicated marquees. This one is actually not paper. This is like plastic that has the Tron logo on it and everything, and it's signed by him and personalized to me. Where I will be able to hang this up, I do not know, but I definitely want to do so. I'll find something. I have to get a frame for it and everything. But Paul Niemeyer is a super nice guy. I talked to him a couple years back. My friend Justin and I approached him because I wanted to get my Mortal Kombat 2 box signed. My Mortal Kombat 2 for the Super Nintendo box signed alongside all the Mortal Kombat actors. And my friend Justin asked him about a Pac-Man thing that he did, and he just wanted to talk Pac-Man for probably 3 hours. But we were like, we kept on going social cues, bro. We kind of want to go that way back into the vendors hall to buy stuff, but he just kept on talking. So we're like, okay, back up a little bit. Okay, But he is such a nice guy. He is so cool and like really accommodating and like just personable. Like I would love to sit down and just chit chat with him over a beer or something. He'll talk your ear off too. Yeah, I know. But he's super nice. I like him a lot. But there were Mortal Kombat people there this year. None that I actually needed to finally get all of the signatures I need for my complete Mortal Kombat 2 signature selection. Because I'm trying to get my Mortal Kombat 2 for the Super Nintendo, the box, signed by everybody that was involved in it. At least actor-wise. And if I'm lucky, get Ed Boon and John Tobias too. I don't know how that would happen, but crazier things have happened. But 2 people were there. Well, there was more people. I should have gotten the other guy to sign it too. I feel really bad that I left him out. But anyway, so the guy that played Jax was there. I cannot remember his name for the life of me. But the guy who played Jax was there. The guy who Richard DeVizio, who plays Kano and Cabal and Baraka and Quan Chi, was there. Juan Marquez, who played Kung Lao, was there. I should have gotten his signature too on this, but I didn't because I'm a dummy. Never said I was smart. Dr. Philip An was there, who played Shang Tsung in Part 2. And then this other actress, Leah Monte, I keep on wanting to say Monte Carlo, but that's not it. Let me look it up real quick. Instagram. Leah Montalongo. She played in Mortal Kombat 3. She played Sindel. And in Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero, she played Serena. And she was also the motion capture model for Tanya in Part 4. So I was looking at the guest list when I was still at home, and I was like, couldn't hurt to get your Mortal Kombat 3 and your Mythologies signed by. And my plan was just to get Richard DeVizio and Leah Montalongo signatures because they're in both games. Didn't really think about getting Juan Marquez to sign Mortal Kombat 3 or the guy that played Jax to sign Mortal Kombat 3 because I'm a dummy, like I said. So I did get them to sign both. So first I go to Leah Montalongo, and I kind of embarrassed myself a little bit. Not as badly as what happened with Daniel Pesina, back in the day. But basically, I walked up and I was like, hey, how you doing? And she's like, I'm good. How are you? And I said, I'm doing great. How are you? And then I kind of stopped and I go, I just said that, didn't I? She's like, you're fine. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm tired. I've had 2 hours of sleep and my brain isn't working properly. So I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm going to be a little awkward. So I got her to sign my copy of Sub-Zero right here. And while we were talking, she also signed my copy of Mortal Kombat 3 right here. And while she was doing this, so she kind of goes, hey, so when she was signing 3 especially, she goes, did you know that while I was making Mortal Kombat 3, the reason I got involved in it was because I was married to the guy who played Shao Kahn in Part 1 and 2? And I went like, what? And she's like, yeah, I was married to Brian, what's his name? Brian Glynn, I think. I was married to Brian Glynn while he was making these games, and he got me involved, I got involved through him. And I'm like, that's kind of awesome. I was not aware of that. And then I go, by the way, your ex-husband is also probably the last performer I need to sign my Mortal Kombat 2 box and poster to get my full set. And she goes oh, really? And she goes, he doesn't come to very many conventions. I'm like, trust me, I know he only went to one last year and that was it. But I wasn't going to drive to frickin' Kentucky to get a signature. And she goes, actually, he might be here later today. And I went, really? And I was that close to going can I give you my phone number so you can text me when he shows up, if he shows up? But I didn't do that. But I was just kind of oh, and I'm like, well, anyway, it wouldn't make any it wouldn't make any matter anyway because I did not bring my Mortal Kombat 2 stuff with me, so it's lost. So like whatever. But she was super nice. And it was weird because like the way they do the signatures normally is like per signature you pay. So like if the price is $30, for a signature, you're paying. If you want 2 things signed, you pay $60. You pay 30 twice. So she didn't do that. She basically, I don't know if it was because I acted all awkward at the beginning and she felt bad for me. So she just goes, for 2 signatures, just give me the 30. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you don't have to do that. She's like, I know. She's like, just it's okay. I'm like, all right, fine. Go over to Richard DeVizio, totally different story. He's like, it's $30 or no, what was it? $60 per signature. And I wanted 2. And I'm like, I have to pay $120 for all this shit? I was like, okay, fine. But the thing about Richard DeVizio is just like Paul Niemeyer, he is super freaking nice and super freaking personable, and he will talk your goddamn ear off. And I did not complain. So he signs my Mortal Kombat 3, and I actually kind of embarrassed him a little bit, or I kind of put him in his place a little bit, because as he's signing my Mortal Kombat 3, which he actually put like Kano, finish him on there, he goes, I also play Baraka too. He's like, do you want me to sign this Kano and Baraka? And I go, no. And he's like, really? Why not? I'm like, Baraka's not in this game. He's like, yes, he is. I go, no, he's not. He's in Mortal Kombat Trilogy. But he's not in Mortal Kombat 3 proper. I'm like, he's not even in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. I'm like, he's only in Trilogy. And he goes, you're right. And he's like, what am I thinking? And I'm about to say, I'm like, don't make me sit here and school you on your own fucking game, bro. But he was super cool. And then when he signed my Mythologies, he signed it, Do Not Fail Me, Richard DeVizio, which is really cool. And he was telling me some stories about, filming these. And then I was wearing my 9 Inch Nails shirt. And I should probably add that picture if I can. He was I was wearing my 9 Inch Nails shirt, and he goes, have you been to the Metro? And I'm like, the Metro, you mean the concert hall? And he's like, yeah. And I go, no. I'm like, I don't really go to concerts unless like people go with me, because I really hate going to those. But I'm like, going to a movie is no big deal, but going to a concert, I don't want to go by myself. And he's like, Metro is so good. He goes, back in the day, I used to see so many cool industrial bands there. I'm like, oh, you're a big industrial guy? I'm like, so am I. And we started talking about industrial music, which I thought was really kind of strange, but it was awesome. And he starts talking about when he worked at the Wax Trax store that was in Chicago, which is like where a lot of the big industrial bands came from. Like KMFDM came through them. My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, all that kind of stuff. So he's talking about like working at the front desk and like, what's his name from Ministry? Al Jorgensen like walks in and is kind of like asking where, is this so-and-so person here? Can I talk to them kind of shit? And he would just, it was the craziest thing. We stood there for maybe like 15 minutes just talking about like industrial music. And because of that, he kind of went like, after he finished signing everything and we're chatting, he goes, you want to take a picture? I'm like, I didn't pay for that. And he goes, no, it's okay. So he kind of did the exact same thing that Leah Monte, I can't even think of her name again. I want to say Monte Carlo again. Montelongo. What she did, where she was just like, it's no big deal. Like, you don't have to pay. I'm like, okay, cool. So I got a picture taken with him, and this is it. Actually, we had probably like 20 pictures taken. Kung Lao, Anthony, or what's his name? Anthony Marquez took my phone, and he basically took like 20 pictures of him doing different poses. Like first he's doing like a little Kano pose, and there's one where he's got his arm on me and he's still doing it. But we took like 20 pictures. He was super cool. So yeah, got those signed. Talk your ears off about that one. I pulled a Paul Niemeyer on you guys. But super cool. And now I feel bad that I didn't get the other people to sign at least Mortal Kombat 3 because they were in that game also, but there's always next year, and they're always there. Anyway. What's up, chum? How's it going? Welcome. I think on social media when I posted the pictures, I posted a different one in each place. Like on Blue Sky, it's one thing. On Instagram, it's another. On Facebook, it's another. On Discord, it's another. Because there are so many of them. Like I said, there's like 20 pictures of us. I remember when he was taking pictures, he kept on going like tap, 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 tap. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So now we can get into the games. So we're going to go by. Oh, so, okay, now we got two things we could talk about. I can talk about all the random other stuff I bought that isn't a video game, or I can talk about the games. So if you guys want to pick, let me know. It was fun hanging on Saturday too. It was just that I was pissed. And while I wait for the answer to what I asked, I will talk about why I was pissed. So every year I try to get all of the YouTubers that I know of together for like a dinner. So we can all sit around and bullshit and talk games and whatever. And it seems to happen every other year. Like every other year it works, and then every year outside of that it doesn't. So we did 42 Ale House in 2019, and it was a great success. I set that whole thing up. It was a great success. Freaking 45 people, I think, showed up. It was great. 2020, I go to set it up there again. COVID happens. Dead. It's gone. 2021 was the one at the Safe House, and I didn't really have a plan because I didn't think anyone would want to go, and I didn't set anything up in advance. I just basically said to people, "You guys want to go out to dinner tonight?" And everybody said yes. And then we ended up going to the Safe House, and it was a nightmare. So that was kind of like the follow up. Honestly, that was bullshit. We ended up waiting forever. The food was cold when we got it. The food was terrible. So the next year we go to this restaurant that's in downtown Milwaukee that is kind of like it's a pub, but it's like, they have food and really good food. And the Game Beaters were there. Dan from Midwest Media Show, can't talk. I think Freak of Four was there. TJ and Mega Matt were there. Mega Dan, I think, was there. It was me, Captain Algebra, Ryan, Bass Guy, one of the other guys from the Cartridge Club, Game Grinder. Like a bunch of people showed up, and it was great. So I'm like, next year, we'll go back to that place. We go back there the next year. Didn't have to have a reservation the first year. We go back there the next year. They're like, we are fully booked. Fuck off. So we ended up going across the street to like a pizza slice place. I mean, whatever. So then last year, I set up this Don's TV and Repair dinner. And even though like not as many people as I had invited showed up, it was fine. We got in. It was great. They gave us like our own private room. We had our own private bar. It was awesome. It was like this Star Wars room. And that's what I thought was going to happen this year, because I had told them so many people were going to show up. And I had seen what the rest of the restaurant looks like. The only place that was going to be able to accommodate that many people was going to be that Star Wars room again. So when they accepted my reservation this year, I assumed we're going to be in that room. Well, turns out they didn't want us in that room. People already booked it. Everyone that showed up before I did got in, and they basically said, we're cutting you off here after that. So like I show up, and then the rest of the Game Beaters crew shows up, and like I have 4 people in my group. They had like 6 people in their group, maybe more. And like we can't get in. So Captain Algebra got in, Dan got in, I think TJ and Mega Matt got in, Dan B got in, and Back in the Day Gamer got in. And that was pretty much it. They basically said that's it, even though that wasn't even close to what the amount of people that I had made the reservation for were. So we walk in, and they're basically like, no, your party's already in there. So sorry. We can wait for people to leave, and then we can send you in one at a time, or how many people leave, we can send that many people in. So like, I want to say we stood outside for like 15, 20 minutes in like the little waiting room, and they were like, 2 people can go in. And I'm like, there's freaking 12 of us standing here. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm looking around. I'm like, do 2 people want to go in? That's not me, because like I feel bad that this is what's happening, and like we're all supposed to be eating right now. By now, I'm like, I don't know. I was pissed. I was getting really, really mad. And then Dan B decided to come out and talk to us in the lobby, and he goes, "There's room at the bar. There's more room at the table. I don't know what the hell these people are doing. I think they just don't want to work." Was basically what I was hearing. And it's just like they just didn't want to let people in. So I'm like, this is some freaking bullshit. And then Ryan Rocket Sauce goes, there's a place called Oscars, which we had gone to the previous year on Friday night for dinner with Midwest Media Show, Dan. We went there last year and it was really good. And Ryan knows the guy that is the main bartender. I think he actually like is the manager of the restaurant. He goes, they always have room. We can just go there. So I'm like, fine. Fuck this place. Everyone that got in, good on you. Have your meal, get drunk, whatever you want. I'm glad you're in there. We're going elsewhere. So like because the Game Beater crew had all come in with Ubers, I was like, how are they going to get to the place that's new? Because I remember I looking at like Dick Boots, and Dick Boots is sitting there going like, okay, now what? So I'm like, okay, I'll make 2 trips. I'll drive my group plus one from your group that I can squeeze into my car to the new place. I'll come back and pick the rest of you up and take you there. And that's exactly what I did. I ended up taking 2 trips, which is no big deal. I was happy to do it. Got in there, plenty of space for us. We put a whole bunch of tables together. We got food pretty quickly. It was really good. Paying was a bitch. So, like, they didn't want to split the bill up, which is probably, partially my fault because I probably should have said when we were ordering, can we all get a separate bill? But at the end, she was like, yeah, I'm not separating the bill. I can like just put it on a whole bunch of different credit cards. And I'm thinking she's going to separate from each credit card what that person had ordered. And I'm like, well, here's my share. And like, I only ordered like $15 worth of stuff. All I had was a burger with fries, which was like $11, and a Coke. And that came to like $15. So I put $25 in the pot for tip and tax. And I think Slayer gave like $100 bill to pay for a bunch of other people's stuff. And then like whoever put a credit card in, she basically split up what was left like in the bill on 4 people's credit cards. And they ended up paying for everyone else's shit. And I'm like, what the hell, lady? It was a nightmare. It sucked. I was so mad. And then like, we ended up sitting there, I want to say, for 20 minutes trying to find out what's going on. I kept looking at Dick Boots, and I kept on going like, what the hell is going on? Because the waitress she would disappear and not come back for 20 minutes. And we're sitting there going like, we want to leave, lady. Can we like pay? And I was getting pissed. Ryan was sitting there trying to calm me down. I wasn't like screaming or anything, but he could see I was getting like worked up. And he's like, calm down. It'll be okay. And like, he went and talked to his buddy that was like running the bar. And like it finally got worked up, and I'm still sitting there going like, Chum Nasty ended up paying like $50 for food that he didn't, like extra money that he didn't have to pay. Ryan's friend Adam ended up paying like $50 for and extra stuff for what he didn't pay. It was crazy. But I told him like, if we're going to come back to Oscars next year, we'll do this again. We'll come back to Oscars because they do have their shit together. They do have a separate room that we can just ask for because Ryan knows the guy that owns the place or runs the place. And we'll just ask for separate checks from the start, and it should be okay. Saturday night was bonkers. It was a disaster. We had room for 4 at the table, 3 at the bar, and they had 2 tables that were empty. See, that's what I'm talking about. They did not... The way that Dan B was talking to me about the way that place was, like how many spaces they had available, they just didn't want to work that night. The girl at the front desk was being a complete asshole. She basically turned 2 people away. 2 people had shown up who had made reservations. And this place charges you if you make a reservation and you don't show up within 15 minutes of your reservation time. So basically these like 2, I want to say early 20-somethings walked in after us. And they're like, yeah, we have a reservation under this name. And she goes, you were supposed to be here 20 minutes ago. And they're like, yeah, we're sorry, we're late. But, we had problems. And she goes, if you're not here within 15 minutes, we charge you for your reservation for you as a no-show. And she goes, so basically, number 1, we're charging you money for not being on time. And number 2, you're not getting in. And then she goes, here's a coupon for the next time you show up. Bye. I'm like, I looked at it, I was like, this is some bullshit. This place fucking sucks. It was so cool last year. I'm like, I don't care if they have a crock pot full of booze. We're going to Oscars next year. This is why we feed ourselves at the Airbnb at Mo Cape Con. Tony said they wouldn't let him sit at the bar because the bartenders were training. Fucking bullshit. They just did not want to do anything. That's the problem. They had nothing but like early 20-somethings working there from what I can tell, and they were just being lazy. I'm like, you guys don't like money, I take it. But when we bounced, the girl behind the counter was just kind of like, where are you going? I'm like, fuck you. I didn't say that, but I was just like, fuck you. You guys suck. Bye. Yeah, bartenders are training. There were a few goofs with your food. See, we're not going there ever again. I'm not, if you guys want to go, be my guest, but like, I'm not organizing anything for that place ever again. So now we can get back to the pickups. Okay. So this was the year where I was sitting there going, wow, the 3D printed stuff that they have at this con. Another thing that kind of ticked me off about the convention was last year I was talking about how I was really annoyed that it seemed to be more crafting stuff than games, or there was an equal amount. It was like half crafting stuff and half games. This year it was like every other table was a freaking Pokemon card table. And I'm like, can we put these in like a different area, please, and just have like the games? But I started looking at like the 3D printed stuff that was all over the place, and I was like, some of this is pretty cool. I actually kind of want some of this. I am definitely going to do it and buy a lot of it. And I did. So, because if you've been to my house, so this is TJ, Dan, if he's still here, he's been to my place. In my bathroom, above the toilet, I have these wooden, I wouldn't say like a sculpture, but these it's like a picture of Samus from the first Metroid game carved out of wood and looks fantastic. And I also have one of a Metroid that hang over the toilet. While I'm sitting there going like, I've always said I wanted to add more stuff to the walls in the bathroom, but I'm afraid to put stuff up that's paper or anything like that because, you know, it's a bathroom. I take showers in there. It gets moist. I don't want things to get ruined. 3D printed stuff is made out of plastic. It should be able to survive. So I'm like, okay, I've got these two Metroid items on the walls. Maybe I could just add to them. So what I ended up doing was buying a 3D printed title card for Metroid, the first one. And I already banged a hole in the back so I can put a nail through it to hang it on the wall. I also bought one of Metroid 2 Return of Samus and one of Super Metroid. And the way I'm going to do this is I have a big space in between the Samus and the Metroid. So the Metroid is going to go above Samus. Metroid 2 is going to go between Samus and the Metroid. And Super Metroid is going to go underneath the Metroid. And these were not expensive. I want to say I paid $10 for Metroid. I paid $15 for each of these. No, I paid $15 for Metroid 2. I paid $20 for Super Metroid. But these are actually like, even though they're really thin, they are very heavy. So it's like some thick, or maybe some more like higher quality resin that was used to make these. This one is like light as hell and hollow, which is probably why it was only $10. So when I ran into the Game Beater crew, we're talking like all of them. It was like Dan B, Dick Boots, Evil Dan, Chum Nasty, Slayer, Freaka 4. And I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the other guy that was with you guys that rode in my car for the first like group that I brought to the restaurant. I think it was Chum Nasty asked me if I wanted to be part of like the $10 convention challenge thing that Dan B had been organizing, where I think they did it at Mo GameCon last year too, where it's like, you know, buy something or multiple things that equal out to $10. Talk about why you bought it, why you think it's cool, why it's interesting, why you think it should win the competition as like the best thing that has been bought for the competition. And then afterwards, you'll find out what everybody else had bought, and you pick which one you think is the best. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So while I was looking around, I wasn't really seeing anything game-wise, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, people usually tend to buy or try to get like a really expensive game for really cheap. You know, try to get like a $30 game and get it down to $10, or a $20 game and get it down to $10 for these like competition, these like little thing, these challenges. I keep on calling it a competition challenge. Or see how many games they can get for $10, stuff like that. So I'm sitting there going like, I'll do counter programming. I'll pick something that isn't even related to a video game. And I go to one of the 3D printed tables, and it was the same one where I bought this Metroid. And they had one of Akira, which is probably my favorite anime of all time. And I was like, this was only $10, just like this Metroid was, because it's kind of hollow on the inside. It's basically just a lot of like, you can kind of see the pattern inside of the supports, but it's basically hollow. And I already punched a hole in this too, so I can hang it. So I was like, I'll get this because it's like I said, counter programming. It's not video game related, even though there's a video game based on this movie. 2 video games actually, one for like the Amiga and one for the Famicom. And Freaka 4 did vote for me in the challenge video that Dan B released on the Game Beaters channel, which is really cool. But yeah, definitely had to get this because I love Akira. Definitely had to get this, Peter. This rareware one, and this one was only $15, and this one is like thick as hell, and it's like everything's raised. Rare is my favorite developer of all time, so I definitely had to pick this up. Chris out here flipping the script. The partners are training, and there were a few goofs in their food. Yeah. So I definitely had to pick this up. You can see the ticket on it. It was only $15. I think that since I got these on Sunday, they were discounting everything by about $5. So I think this might have been 20 on Saturday. And because I bought this on Sunday, this is, I think, one of the last things I bought before I left. Definitely had to get that. But the one that I did not see on Saturday at the booth that I got these at, nor did I see it when I first walked in there on Sunday, but I saw it like right before I left. They had a Tron one. So I definitely had to pick that up, and I already nailed a hole or poked a hole in the back so I can hang this up. So definitely had to get that. Love the layers in the rare one. Yeah, I love the fact that it's like, super like thick, like everything's raised. So definitely have to get that. Where I'll put it, I don't know. I also have been wanting to buy these. I say every year I'm going to buy these there at this one booth, but I never do because I'm like, I want games. Well, this year I was kind of like, I'm okay with not buying everything as games. So went to this one booth, and I got this other thing there too, but they are these shale coasters for like, putting a drink on. Thick, heavy. They are even padded on the bottom. So I got one with the D&D ampersand. One with a Dungeons & Dragons gelatinous cube on it. And the guy that was running the booth when I bought this other thing was like, this is how I remember that I wanted to buy these. He goes, oh, I have one of a gelatinous cube that I wanted to make in this style, but I was going to 3D print it, but I couldn't figure out how to make the gelatinous cube translucent and also have like the things inside that it's digesting, like the skulls and the shield and the arrows and all that, and make it actually look like it's cool. He goes, but I'm still working on it. I'm like, well, if you come up with a way to do it, I'll definitely buy it if you bring it next year. Also bought one that's the Stargate symbol for Earth and one of the Stargate itself. I probably should have bought another two. They had a bunch of Star Trek ones too. I went to their website and they didn't have any of the Star Trek stuff available, so kind of a bummer. But the big one that I bought from this guy's booth that made these shale coasters is this. This is actually made out of wood, and it is the Dungeons and Dragons ampersand. This is really, really cool. I love this so much. When I walked past it on Saturday, and I was like, if that is still hanging when I come back tomorrow, I'm buying that first thing. And that's exactly what I did. I walked up to his booth on Sunday. It was still there. And that's when he started telling me about all the other D&D things he wanted to make. And I was like, I don't care. I have to have this. And it's also kind of like layered. And it has like the hook to hang it. I don't intend to hang it. What I've been doing with it is just actually resting it right here, because this is kind of like boring, this little section of the arcade cab. So I just kind of like rest it on the arcade cab, so it's right there. So that's all of the miscellaneous stuff that I bought. Now we can get to the games. And like I said, I kind of behaved this year. Don't get me wrong, I bought a lot. But I didn't go absolutely crazy like I have in previous years. But I did get a lot of really cool stuff. Okay, let me wet the old whistle because the throat's getting dry again. So we'll go in order of console. So I've been getting back into Atari 2600 stuff again. You saw last month, I bought a bunch of Atari 2600 and television stuff. So like one of the things I said to myself before I got there, even though I had no plan as to what I was going to buy, I had nothing I was specifically looking for. I was like, if I can find some 32X stuff, great. If I can find some Atari 2600 stuff, great. If I can find some Game Boy stuff, great. Am I looking for anything specific game-wise? Not really. I was just like, let's just walk around, see what we find, and if we find anything interesting and it's a decent price, or they're willing to haggle, or the vendors are willing to haggle, I'll do it. And that's pretty much what happened. I haggled with pretty much every single vendor. There's maybe 2 that were kind of like, eh. But it wasn't like I'm not one of those guys that's like, here's a $50 game. Would you give it to me for half off? I'm not that. I was like, would you take $10 off if I was buying a couple of things? If I was buying like one thing, would you take $5 off? So I'm not being a complete dick. But like, there's a couple who were just kind of like, I don't make deals. You either buy it or you leave it. I was like, well, you can eat my ass because I'm going somewhere else. So I did buy a handful of Atari 2600 stuff. Starting off with, if you watched the 30 or the licensed game challenge that I did, or the 31-day licensed game challenge that I did back in like 2021 or whatever it was, when it came to my least favorite licensed game of all time, I said I would probably never own it. I now own it. They had it there. It was at a good price. It was complete. And I was just kind of like, fuck it. Just get it. And that's Raiders of the Lost Ark on the Atari 2600. I do not like this game. This is one of those Atari 2600 games that makes people hate Atari 2600 games because it's so obtuse. The manual tells you nothing. You basically have to just run around and experiment in every single way possible to figure out what the fuck you need to do in this game. It's hard, artificially hard. Like it's made intentionally to punish you. I don't like it, but it's a licensed game. And it's part of my gaming history because, like I said, I used to play this all the time as a kid, and it would piss me off so much that I would like rage quit. And I'd be like, I'm going to do it today. Today is the day I figure out how to play this damn game. Nope, never happened. I didn't find out until like later on. Somebody was just kind of like, oh yeah, you pick up that, like on the first screen. I have no idea what I was supposed to do. Like you walk too far down and you fall to your death for no reason, kind of thing. It's like, what are you supposed to do? Well, you find a grenade in that basket and you put it up on this section of wall and you blow a hole in it and you walk through it and you're into the next section. I'm like, there is nothing to indicate that that's where you would put anything there, that there's anything in that wall that needs to be blown up. Like, how did you find that out? He's like, I just walked around and found it. I'm like, fuck you. So now I have that. 31 days of licensed games, January of 23. It was not in 23. It was like right after COVID I did that. I wasn't even a supervisor at my job. I hadn't been promoted yet. Yeah, that was like in 21, I want to say. I did that. This one, so I was talking earlier when I bought the RBI Baseball 95 for the 32X, that I was talking about how that store is like everything is eBay prices at the store, and then at the convention it's even more expensive. So that's why I tend to not buy stuff from them at the convention. I just walk past their booth 90% of the time. Well, this is why. So from the start, the only thing I was really buying was Atari 2600 stuff. So I walked past the Retro Dimensions table, which is that store, and they had a game I'd never see sitting there, and it's $100. And I go like, well, I never see it. $100? I don't know if I want it for that price. I will come back later. I'm glad I did, because I walked down the aisle about 4 or 5 tables past the Retro Dimensions table, and I find the exact same game sealed for $30. And that's Bermuda Triangle. This is probably like Data Age, who released this. I would say they're probably my third favorite developer for the Atari 2600. It's Imagic, Activision, and then Data Age. And I never played this one back in the day. This is a brand new game to me. But like, really? Like, how you want to talk about jacking shit? And it was an open copy that they were selling for $100. And I got a sealed one for $30. Fuck off. And this is the real seal. It's got that like folded over part. And I don't know what type of game this is. It looks kind of like an undersea shooter. But yeah, I'm glad I passed that up, because I would have been so mad if I bought it for $100 and then walked down the aisle and found a sealed copy for $70 off. Ugh. Made me so mad. And then, like, my friend came to visit on Sunday, and we're walking through the entire vendors area. And then I said, I'm like, that game is 100. Like, they're selling for $100. I'm like, I bought it yesterday, sealed for 30. I'm like, what the hell are these guys thinking? Also picked up. So there was this one booth from these people in Iowa, and it's like a contained booth, and they only allow, like, you have to walk into the booth to be able to see what they have. They only allow a certain amount of people in at any given time, so they can keep track of everybody. And like, I bought a bunch of Atari stuff there. It wasn't the Bermuda Triangle or the Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was these two games that I'm going to show now. One is Smurf Rescue in Gargamel's Castle. I did have this one back in the day. This was actually by Coleco and is available on the ColecoVision as well. And I always thought the cartridges from Coleco looked really cool. Like, they're kind of like beige, and they have like a grip on the side. This one's actually got like a label on it. It's got someone's name on it. Oh, it just says Smurf. Don't need your ass anymore. That's probably like a 45, 50-year-old piece of paper. But these boxes are like help. I mean, they're a little damaged, but they're okay. But it was complete, and I remember having this back in the day, and it being pretty fun. I'm not a huge Smurf fan in any way, so I didn't buy it because of the license. But you know me and license games, we got a thing going on, so I had to get it. So Smurf, nothing really on the back. Smurf off. This one I had to get. It was a little pricey, but this is actually one of the pricier games for the Atari 2600, but they were selling it at that Iowa booth for, I want to say, like 2/3 the price, like 2/3 off. So I was just kind of like, I don't know if that's a misprint on the price tag or what, but I'm getting it because this game I used to play on not on the Atari 2600. I played this on my dad's Atari 800 XL computer all the time, and I thought it was super fun. And it's Miner 2049er. I absolutely love this game. I actually have the sequel to this. It's Bounty Bob Strikes Back on the 7800. And the way this game kind of works is like almost like playing like Lode Runner or even Q*bert, but it's a side-scrolling action game. You basically play as this guy, and you're running over platforms. And when you run over them, they change color to solid. They're kind of like open. It looked like girders, like for like metal girders. But when you run over them, they turn solid. You need to turn all the platforms solid, while you've also got these like creatures that are in the mines chasing after you. There's also like slides and stuff to help get away from them and all that. It's like a puzzle platformer. It is really, really, really fun. I like it. Like I said, I used to play this all the time. I absolutely love it. So thrilled as hell to have this on the Atari 2600, and I got it for a good price. And then there's this. January 22. Okay. Wasn't with the green logo on the top of their boxes. Green logo? For the Atari? I don't know, Peter. Activision, maybe? Yeah, I don't know. So 20th Century Fox used to make and release games for the Atari 2600. They were usually based on their licenses for movies. Some of them weren't. Universal released Flash Gordon, and 20th Century Fox released a Flash Gordon game on the Atari. So I went to the booth that's from another one of my local stores. It's Video Games Then and Now. They have a presence at the convention every year. The guy that runs the store is a huge Vectrex fan, and he always has a big old layout for Vectrex stuff. He has all the new homebrews out. He always has games like from the original collection, the original set of games that came out for the console in the early 80s. And he's a pretty nice guy, but he also gets some weird Atari 2600 stuff now and then. And I found they had quite a bit at his booth this year. And the one that caught my eye is this. And it's because this was a game that was being developed by 20th Century Fox for the 2600. It was almost ready to go. It got canceled. It is based on a movie that probably should never have had a game based on it because it is very adult, kind of like Porky's, the store that was at Midwest Gaming Classic. Oh, talking about dirty, filthy game room. Was it Filthy Game Room? Mo Game Con? Filthy Game Room, I think, is the one you're thinking of. And I look on the back, and I also looked it up on my phone, and it said, yes, this is based on this movie that came out, I do believe, in the early 80s, which is about a woman who gets sexually assaulted by a ghost. And then the rest of the movie is her trying to prove that it happened by bringing in like some paranormal investigators, and it turns into like this crazy haunted house movie. And it's like, I was going to say, is it Porky's? No, it's not Porky's. I was looking for a copy of Porky's, but I didn't see one. So the thing is, like, somebody found the ROM of this unfinished game and finished it and released it. And it is called Entity. The movie is called The Entity. For some reason, the game itself is just called Entity. And I looked it up, and yes, this is 100% based on that film. Why someone thought that The Entity would be the basis for a great video game, I have no flipping idea. But it says here, the entity must quickly be moved to a higher plane of existence to avoid its chilling demise. It will resist, but this must not stop you. Can you hold out long enough to... What is it? Can you hold out long enough to replenish... They broke the word up in like half, and it makes no sense where they did it. To replenish your helium supply, locate a portal in the barrier separating planes of existence, then use your joystick to channel the entity through the portal and onto the next plane. If the entity resists, subdue it with a spray of liquid helium. That's how they exercise the ghost in the movie, with like liquid helium. It's weird. Why did they think this would be a good idea? But I was like, I absolutely 100% have to have that in my collection. It looks like a very generic type of platformer, but whatever. I now own a game about a ghost that sexually assaults somebody. Oh, man. What the hell? What the hell? But like I said, the moment I saw it, I was like, is that what I think it is? Look it up. It sure is. Number one, why does this exist? And number two, why am I just finding out about it now? It will be mine. So, yeah, there's that. Moving on to the next console. So I've talked about this guy for the last 2 years, I think. There's this table that is 75% Sega stuff. I've bought stuff from him the last 2 years. I got my Golden Axe Warrior that I was looking for. Was it 2 years ago from him? Last year I bought a bunch of stuff from him. He has a ton, and I mean a ton, of Master System stuff, both US and from overseas. And not only did Captain Algebra buy stuff from this guy, but also Dan from Midwest Gaming or Midwest Media Show. He went kind of crazy there. I went crazy there. Ryan Rocket Sauce bought a bunch of stuff for Mighty Q Dog. He was talking to him on the phone, telling him about this stuff, taking pictures. They ended up buying a bunch of stuff through Ryan. It was nuts. I bought stuff from this table on Saturday and Sunday. I bought the stuff I absolutely 100% wanted to get on Saturday, and I was like, if I come back on Sunday and this other stuff is still here, I will buy that tomorrow. I was like, and that's exactly what happened. That was the first table I went to on Sunday. So I got a buttload of Sega Master System games. First one is probably one of the most common ones, and that is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I don't have the first Sonic the Hedgehog, but I hear it's not great. I hear the second one is the better of the two that were released. So, yeah, it's like a dumbed-down port of Sonic 2 on the Genesis. Sure. And every one of these is complete. I got a story about that, too. So there's that. Also picked up Xenon 2 Mega Blast from Virgin. And this is a vertically scrolling shmup, which I do believe is based on a Commodore 64 game, if I'm correct. But I love that front artwork. That is super cool. This is one that I think Ryan bought for Mighty Q Dog. This one's from overseas. You can always tell it's from overseas when the manual is horizontally oriented. So there's that. Looks pretty fun. It was also really cheap. A lot of these were super cheap. I don't think I paid more than $45 for any of these. They were like, a lot of them were 15, 20, and 25. The most expensive one is the last one I'm going to show you. I also picked up Taito Chase HQ. This is based on an arcade game. It's like playing pole position, but you're a cop and you shoot at the crooks that you're chasing after. So it's kind of like playing Outrun and a shooter at the same time, which always seemed kind of fun. I remember playing one of these in the arcade somewhere. There's two of them. So there's that. Also picked up Jurassic Park. This one did not have a manual, but it was the only one that they had sitting there, so I picked it up. This is the same thing as the Game Gear version that I have, where it's mostly a side-scrolling platformer, and there's also some driving levels. It's nothing like the Genesis game. Thank you very much. I'm not a fan of the Genesis one. I'm sure I can always find a manual on the for this on eBay, because this is a pretty common game, and I'm sure there's a million copies out there that were released for the Master System in like England and the UK and all that. Definitely had to pick this up because this is one of my favorite arcade games from back in the day, and I did not know there was Gauntlet available on the Master System. So because I like the game so much, and I have Gauntlet 1 and 2 on the Nintendo, I'm like, I want to see how this differs from the Nintendo version. And while the graphics look definitely better, everything seems to be on a white background, which I think is really strange. But it does closely more closely resemble the arcade game, if you ask me. So absolutely 100% had to get that. The only thing about this is the artwork looks like it has a little bit of water damage, and it's a little faded on the spine, but whatever. They only had one copy of that available. Also picked up the Flintstones. Did not know this was a thing, but this is a game from overseas, so whatever. And this is a side-scrolling platformer. And I think you're also driving the Flintstones car at one point as well. So, you know, me and licensed games. So had to pick that up. They only had one of this. The thing about this table where we got these from was the moment someone would buy something from the containers that they had all these games in, the guy that ran the table would just pull another container up and just refill it with more. And I'd be sitting there going like, why don't you just put that freaking thing out so we can see what you got? But it was basically all, this guy goes, these are all my doubles. I've known that since like the last 2 years the guy's been there. We call them the Sega Bros because there's usually these two brothers that run the table. At least 2 years ago it was the two brothers. Last year it was the one of them and his wife. This year it's the same guy with his wife and now his daughter. But I just call them the Sega Bro table because that's 90. Like I said, 75% of what they have is Sega stuff. And like as we're buying stuff, they're putting more out. So like I'm like, oh, I want some of those too. And Dan was doing the same thing. It's like, oh, they just put more out. I want some of those too. So the most expensive one I bought was this, but it wasn't originally what I bought. So we're talking RoboCop versus Terminator, which I do believe this is the downgraded port of the Genesis game. This is also what you would have gotten on the Game Gear. But it's a side-scrolling platformer shooter, like run and gun, where you play as RoboCop and you're going after the Terminator. And you actually fight like the Ed 209 and RoboCop 2 and all that kind of stuff as well. So the thing with this was, it was originally $25, and I was like, cool. Didn't have a manual, so I was just kind of like, okay, fine, whatever. I'm sure I can find one online. But for $25, I'm buying this. So I buy it, and I buy a couple of other games. I bought like Gauntlet. I bought Xenon. I bought Gauntlet, Xenon, and I think that was it. I think I just bought these three. So Dan is still shopping at the table. I'm talking with Ryan. And as we're talking, or as me, I think it was me and Dan were talking, the guy brings out that other container that he has under the table and starts to refill the slot. So he put another one of these out. And I'm like, and I look, and that one was more expensive. I'm like, hang on one second. So I go over there and I grab it. I open it up, and that one had a manual in it. So I go up to the guy. I'm like, look, I just bought this copy from your table. And the guy's like, yeah, it didn't have a manual in it. The one that you just put out has a manual. Can I swap and just pay the difference from what this one costs compared to the other one? The guy's like, yeah, that's fine. So I gave him like an extra $20 or whatever it was, and there we go. So now I have the complete version of this, which is cool. Can't wait to try this one out. So there's that. I only bought one NES game this year. I was looking for Battletoads Double Dragon on the NES and the Super Nintendo. I found both. I found the Super Nintendo one at that Iowa table that, like I said, they only let so many people in to look around. But the thing was, the box looked funny. The box was like unusually dark colored. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I think this is a repro box. And then I opened it up and it didn't have a manual, and the label was all scratched up. And I was like, yeah, I'm not buying that. No way. I go to another table. They have 2 copies of the NES one. One was sealed and one wasn't. I go, can I see the open one? And last year, I want to say the game was like $200 or something. And I was like, maybe I can talk them down from $200. Well, the lady puts down on the table and she wanted $400 for it. I'm like, this doubled in price in 1 year. Put it back. I will not be buying that. So like the stuff that I was kind of looking for, I couldn't find. But then I saw this, and it was like, I would say this is like 15, maybe $20. And that's a City Connection for the NES. And this is, I think, based on an old arcade game. And it's like also like playing Qbert, where you play as this car that's being chased by cops. And there's like these 3 levels of platforms that you can jump to. There's spaces in between you can jump. You have to like run over them and turn the road solid colored in order to beat the stage and then move on to the next area. And I always liked that kind of thing. I always thought this game was really fun. I played it a couple times before, so I picked it up because it was cheap. For you getting to the good stuff, and I have to get to bed. We'll watch the rest of this later. Okay, well, have a good night, TJ. Thanks for coming by. Also bought just one Genesis game this year, and it was at the Sega Bros table. I bought this on Sunday because I was like, if I said on Saturday, if that's still here, I will try to make a deal for it on Sunday, and I did. So that's when I bought Flintstones, Jurassic Park, Sonic 2, and Chase HQ, and I also picked this up. And like, I ended up dealing with the guy's daughter, and I guess he was telling his wife and his daughter, you can make deals, you just can't go below a certain percentage of the total price. So whenever somebody would ask, especially when it came to the daughter, would you be willing to pay, or would you be willing to take this for this stack of games? And she would pull out her phone, do a little calculation, and if it came out below that percentage, she'd be like, no, I can't. I can't go below that, below this one price. And it was usually if the amount totaled out to $100, and you said, would you do 90? She'd be like, I can't do more than 92 because of that percentage. And it's like, you can't, and I think Ryan even said it to him, you can't take off $2 extra. You have to have those $2. And then usually they'd be like, okay. But like the daughter, I threw a number at them for the games I was buying, and she basically, like, I think it came out just at what she was willing to go for. And she was like, yeah, I guess I can do that. I was like, you damn right. So the only Genesis game I bought was Time Killers, which by all accounts is a terrible game. Don't I know it? This is based on an arcade game that was trying to cash in on the violence of Mortal Kombat by being another one-on-one fighting game that featured nothing but blood and guts. And the whole idea behind this is a bunch of different characters from different time periods are pitted up against each other. And the whole idea behind this is you can dismember people, you can cut arms off, you can cut legs off, you can cut heads off at any time. It just depends on if you're in the right position and you slash at the right time. And there are fatalities as well. And I remember playing this, of all places, in the arcade at Great America. Six Flags Great America. They had this cabinet in full view and were letting like little kids play it. And I thought it was really funny. I remember like walking up to it. I was just like, I must play this for myself. This looks amazing. This controls like shit. But it's so cool that I'm able to do all these rad things. And the graphics were really weird. So I've always had a soft spot for it because it's like playing Mortal Kombat. You know, it's a one-on-one fighting game with all the gore. But at the same time, I'm not in a rush to get it because it's poopy. but I've always kind of wanted to add it to the collection, so I managed to find it at the convention and I picked it up. No delusions, it's terrible. I did manage to pick up some Game Boy games. Like I said, I had said to myself prior to going to the con, I'm like, I would love to pick up some new Game Boy games for the collection. I've been buying a lot of Game Boy stuff lately for all the Game Boy line for Advance, Color, and Standard. One of the only things I said to myself prior that I really wanted was I wanted to buy some kind of a modded Game Boy, either a Game Boy Advance or an original Game Boy that had a lit up screen and the screen's been replaced to look better. Didn't find the table until Sunday that was doing that, and by then they were sold out of everything. So I got the guy's card. I'll buy one online at some point. But anyway, so I picked up Street Fighter 2 for the Game Boy. Lately, I finally finished all the Mortal Kombat games on the Game Boy. I also have Killer Instinct. I also have Battle Arena Toshinden. And then I want to say last month I picked up Raging Fighter for the Game Boy. So it's kind of like fighting games on the Game Boy, they sound like they might be terrible. In like the case of like Mortal Kombat, yes. But like Killer Instinct is actually really fun. Battle Arena Toshinden is actually really fun. Raging Fighter is kind of okay. I kind of want to have the major ones if they're available. I think Primal Rage is also available on the Game Boy. So when I saw that they had Street Fighter 2, which is one that I kind of said to myself I would love to have, and it was not super expensive, the place I bought this from, I think it's called Game Trade or something like that. Or Game Exchange. It's one of the. I think it's Game Exchange. At the con, they always have two prices. Like one is what the price is if you pay credit, and then there's a cash price, and it's usually like $10 less. So I got this for like $10 off because I paid with cash, and it is Super Game Boy compatible. So there is some color to it. Not all the characters are available. I will say that's the only real bummer. I know you can play as Ken, Ryu, Ken, Ryu, Chun-Li, Zangief, Blanca, Balrog, I think, is in it. I don't think there's anybody like. I would say half the roster's gone. But anyway, had to get that. I love it. Can't wait to try that out. And then trying to get all those Rare games, but I also kind of want to finish the set because Rare developed the third game in this series, and I think it's also the most expensive. But I had the first, and I found the second. I just need to get the third now, but I picked up Amazing Spider-Man 2. For some reason, it's only called Spider-Man 2 on the box, but the game itself is Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't get it. First two were created by Bits. The third one is made by Rare, so I kind of want to get the third one because it's Rare, but it's expensive. But I also kind of want to finish the set as well. And it's more of the same of what the first game is. It's a side-scrolling, beat-em-up platformer with Spider-Man. Not great, but not terrible either. So, glad to get that. This one pissed me off because I did not notice this until I got home. But one of the TurboGrafx 16 games I've been wanting for the longest time, I saw it a couple of times at the convention in the past, and I'm always like, I'll come back. And when I come back, it's gone. Captain Algebra was out actually looking for this one also. He managed to pick one up last year or the year before. And I was kind of like, damn it. Like he found one and I didn't. Bummer. But I found one this year. And I picked it up the moment I saw it because I'm like, I'm not coming back and it's not going to. Because of my luck, I'll say I'll come back for it. I will come back and it will be gone. So I picked it up on site and I got a little bit of a deal on it. And I think I know why. But we're talking New Adventure Island. So this is kind of like a remake of the first game for the TurboGrafx 16 with better graphics, better sound, better control, everything. And it is complete. It comes with the manual. It has the game. It has the slip, the little protector, plastic protector, and the clip is intact. And I was like, all right, cool. Awesome. And I've played this before. I played it on my Retro Freak. I downloaded the ROM so I could try it out. I think Captain Algebra played the ROM at Mo Game Con. The first year that I went to Mo Game Con, he was playing it in the basement. That smelled like cat piss. So I got to put this on my shelf when I come back from Mo Game Con, and I'm like, that's not right. So when you get the jewel cases, like they always have like a label on the jewel case with the game's name on it. Well, I go to put it on the shelf, and what do I see? World Class Baseball. I'm like, son of a bitch. No wonder she was willing to make that deal, because she knew that this was effed up. It's like the wrong back of the CD case. I'm like, son of a bitch. So today I went online and I found a guy on Facebook who makes replacement labels, and he only charged me $5 for it. So I'm going to get that in the mail. I'm going to replace this too. It's not going to be a legit label. I don't care. That pisses me off that they didn't even bring it up, or that I didn't even notice it, because I probably wouldn't have bought it. But this was also the only copy of this I saw at the convention, which is pisses me off. But whatever. And then we get to this stuff. So I've been talking about possibly going for a complete collection for this console. And I was not... I already said I was going to do a 32X complete console set. And I'm pretty close. I want to say I'm maybe like 5 games away, but they're just all super expensive. I did see 2 copies of Spider-Man Web of Fire. That's the most expensive game for the console at the con. One guy was selling it for $1,700, and I was just kind of like, no. But that's what the going rate is for it now. And then I go to this other table, same place where I bought New Adventure Island, and they were selling it for $1,100. So $600 off. So I'm standing there and I see it for $1,100 after seeing the $1,700 one at the other table. And I just look at her right now. I go, what's wrong with it? And she just kind of like laughed and was just kind of like, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, well, you don't know. I'm not going to buy it. Bye. I wasn't going to buy it anyway, no matter what. So that's way down the line that's happening. The other console I've been considering possibly going for a complete collection for is the Atari Lynx. And I keep on buying games for it. And I'm like, do I want to do it? Do I not want to do it? I pretty much have the heavy hitters for it. There's maybe like 2 that are a little pricey, but they're not like bad, that I need to get to like complete a set. So there's always this table. I think it's called Songbird Productions, that I bought games from them last year. I bought games from them, I think, the year before. They have legit games and they have new homebrew games available. And I walked past the table on Saturday, and I saw that they had quite a bit of the legit games, like from the official set, that I needed, that were not expensive. And they also had a lot of really cool homebrew stuff, too. And I was just kind of like, maybe I'll pick up a homebrew game for this thing. So I go back on Sunday, and the guy, and it's like this dude and his wife, totally nice. The moment I showed interest in the links, they were just kind of like talking my ear off about it. What they do, what the games they have are, what games they've helped to make, all this kind of stuff. So I was like, cool, you're being super nice. I'm definitely going to buy all this stuff from you. So I picked up Baseball Heroes, which I needed. This was dirt cheap. I think this was like $15. And these are all sealed too. These are original sealed. There is so much new old stock for the links out there. It's hard to not find something that is not sealed. So about Jimmy Connor's Tennis, which is also sealed. I think I paid like 15 or 20 for this. And it's like your standard tennis game. Also picked up, this is one I thought was funny. This is a little bit of a pricier game. I want to say it was like 30 or something, but I'm like, whatever. The Fidelity Ultimate Chess Challenge. And like, it's just chess. You got like 2 views of the board. Yay, excitement. But I guess this is kind of like a harder to find game, but it's not like one of the pricey ones. This was the pricey one. And I saw this at my local game, at the eBay price store, Retro Dimension. They have a new store. I saw it there when I went there in... What was it? It was last month when I got my bonus. So probably end of February, early March was when I saw it there. I think it was at the end of February I saw it there. And I passed on it. But I'm glad I did, because I actually got it cheaper at the convention. And that is Crazy Ace. What is it? Crazy Ace Miniature Golf. And I do believe this was one of the last official games released for the console before it was... Atari put the kibosh on it. And you can tell because, I mean, it has like your standard cart, but the manual is like this thing, like, did you even try? The manual is a fold-out piece of paper. Oh, yep. So there's that. And it doesn't look that great, but like I said, I think this is one of the final games released for the console. Even the art, like everything about this just looks cheap. Like even the artwork is so dark and hard to see. And then this, I think, was also one of the last games released for the console, because this is one of the more expensive ones, and I paid a little bit for it. I think this is actually like a reproduction of it instead of the official one, and that is Super Asteroids and Missile Command. And it's like the arcade versions of both. These are actually way better looking than the ones that are on the Atari 2600 by a long shot. But I love both of these games. They're both classics. Had to get that. Did not see what the manual looks like. This is actually having, it has a normal looking manual compared to that. Yep. Or was this one of the ones that was like incomplete and somebody finished it? I think Songbird finished it. I think that might be what it is. So, yeah, there's that. And then I bought like the one homebrew that looked kind of interesting. And they had just released this. And the guy's like, you like Mario Brothers? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he goes, well, this is like our Mario Brothers clone. It's called Wii Ninja. And it essentially is like playing a Mario Brothers game, but what you're playing as like a little ninja character. Wetopia is in grave danger. The sacred Akuji Temple guardians have been vandalized. Feeling betrayed, they have used their powers to bring chaos to the land. It's up to Wii to quell the fury of the Akuji and restore peace and harmony to Wetopia, but beware, the Akuji are powerful foes, and the journey ahead will be perilous. Run, fight, stomp, and swim through 8 different worlds, collecting treasures and weapons along the way. Victory awaits the brave. Sure. He basically talked me into it. He made it sound super freaking cool. I'm like, all right. And he also talked me into this. So he's like, how often do you change the batteries on your Lynx? I'm like, well, I haven't played it for a while, but I mean, they last a decent amount. And he's like, you might want this too. So he hands me this, which is a USB power adapter for the Atari Lynx. And it was $20. And I'll open it here. So basically, this is a more modern way to plug in your Lynx instead of having to burn through batteries, because while it's not a vampire for batteries like the Nomad or the Game Gear is, the Lynx does not hold, or the batteries do not last super long, maybe 10 hours if you're lucky. So yeah, super thrilled to have a new way to plug it in instead of the original way. So yeah, there's that. So I spent quite a good chunk of change there on Sunday, and I was glad to. I've always had a soft spot for the Lynx. Conned my grandmother into buying one for me back in the day. Made it sound like I could not live without it. Like I would die if I didn't get it. And my grandma was always kind of like, God, okay, fine. I was a con artist when I was a kid. Also picked up a Game Gear game, and I do believe I got a super deal on this, and I caught a table slipping like you wouldn't believe. So I don't see this game very often, if at all, in person. I think I've seen it on eBay when I look for like Game Gear games. And not only did I find a sealed one, well, not only did I find the game itself, which like I said, I never see, I found a sealed one, and I found it dirt freaking cheap. And that is Phantom 2040, which is based on an old Saturday morning cartoon, which I never watched. And it's like a platformer beat 'em up that is also available on the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, maybe the Game Boy. But the thing is, a sealed copy of this goes for $100, and they had it for $30. And I even said to my friend Justin, I was just kind of like, okay, I think that's sealed. Let me take a look at it, because it was like behind glass at this one booth. And it was like this husband and wife team. And I asked the wife, who was standing right in front of me, I'm like, can I look at that Phantom 2040? And she's like, yeah, sure. So like she gives it to me, and it's marked for 30. And I pop it open. I'm like, yep, this is completely sealed. And she hears me say it. She hears me say, yeah, this is completely sealed. And she goes, I hear her go, wait a minute. And she goes running over to her husband, and I hear her say, "You have a sealed game over there, like marked for $30." And he looks at it and he goes, "I don't care." I think he just wanted to get rid of it. And she comes back, she's like, "Yeah, 30." And I'm like, "All right, fine, I'll take it." So I got a sealed copy of this for $30 when it would have normally gone for probably $100 or $90 or something like that. So when I walked away, I was like, well, I look at Justin, I was like, I just caught somebody slipping. Put that up there. So then we get to the two big ones that I bought. Well, maybe not two big ones. I bought, like, I want to say so far, the biggest one was new Adventure Island and this other thing, which you'll see in a minute. But I said to myself before I got there, like I said earlier, I would love to have added some more 32X stuff to my collection, which is one of the reasons why I went for that RBI baseball. And then this, I think, was the last game I bought before I said, okay, I'm done. And that is Colibri. This is one of the more expensive games for the console. This is the one where you play as a hummingbird, and it is a horizontally scrolling shooter, a horizontally scrolling shmup. The graphics are absolutely gorgeous. I did have this back in the day. I only had cartridge only back then, but it was everyone had been giving this game such shit, and I'm like, it's not the greatest game ever, but it doesn't suck. It is still competently made. It's just kind of a weird idea for a shooter. But yeah, you play as a freaking hummingbird, and you get like a shield that circles around you, and you shoot like laser beams out of your beak or something. I don't remember exactly what it is. But yeah, super cool, and I got this for a decent price. I made a little bit of a deal for it. The guy was like, I was like, would you be willing to, I think it was like marked for 200. I was like, would you go for like 190 or something like that? And the guy was like, okay. But they also had one of the other games I needed there, and that is Blackthorn, and they wanted 400 for that. And I was like, you can wait. I just want to get Colibri. So finally have that. I think the only ones I remember offhand that I still need to collect the set when it comes to cartridge is Spider-Man Web of Fire, WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, which for some reason is really expensive, and Blackthorn. I think with this next one, I have all the Sega CD 32X games because I picked up Night Trap for I think it was like $100. This is definitely the better version compared to the Sega CD one. The Sega CD one is really bad, like small window for all the video footage, and it's like, what do they call it? Like washed out, and like it's hard to see sometimes. The 32X definitely had more colors available and more processing power, so now the window to watch the footage is way bigger, and there is more colors, and it's easier to see everything. Still not a great game. I checked the CDs to make sure there was no disc rot. There wasn't. They're all smudged up with fingerprints, but that's easy to clean. But yeah, there was no holes in the disc or anything like that. But it's like one of those games where it's all about remembering, or memorizing timing. Let me see. It's like you control a whole bunch of video cameras, and you're supposed to be at looking at a certain camera at a certain time to see something happen. Because like it's like a room, it's like a mansion or like a cabin full of like teenage or college age girls, and there's like these creeper guys out there trying to get them and capture them and suck their blood out. And you have to like be in certain spots to capture those guys with traps that are set through the house. Turns out there's a big vampire orgy going on. And it stars Dana Plato from Different Strokes. That's like one of the last things she did before she died. It's not great. I don't like this type of full motion video game where it's all about memorizing time codes and stuff. But I mean, like, I needed it for the collection. And I think, like I said, that's the last CD-based 32X game I needed. And then the last game, I didn't think I was going to go to the convention to buy a GameCube game, but my friend Justin pointed it out. He's like, hey, remember that from back in the day? And I was like, yeah, I do. I've always wanted that one. I just never think to look for it. So I picked up a copy of Ikaruga. This is from Treasure. And this is a vertically scrolling shmup, but the big twist of this one is your ship has two sides to it, white and black, and you can flip them over at any time. And the enemies will shoot two different colored blasts at you, white or black. And depending on which side you're using, you can absorb those shots. Like if they're shooting white blasts at you, you flip to the white side of your ship, and those shots will not affect you, and you kind of absorb them. But if you hit with a black shot, it hurts. If you get shot at with black stuff, you flip to the black side of your ship, and you can absorb those. So it's a really cool twist on a shmup, and I really, really like it. So now I finally have this in my collection, and I think that's probably it for the GameCube for me. I'm not going for a collect or a complete set or anything. This is probably the last game I want for the console, and I'm good now. So that's it for games, but that's not all I bought, because I haven't shown you the first thing I bought the moment I got there. And it's big. So, let me get these out of here. So, there's a store by Ryan, Rocket Sauce, called Game Together. They have their own YouTube channel. And while I was there on Thursday and Friday, Ryan was watching their channel the whole time. And I remember saying to myself about a week ago, God, I got the hiccups now out of nowhere. I was saying to myself about a week ago, prior to the convention, I really want to watch my 3D Blu-rays, but I really hate having to bust out the PS4 and my PSVR every time I want to do it, because while I can use my original PSVR on the PS5, it won't play the 3D Blu-rays like the PS4 would. For some reason, that functionality was removed from the PS5, which is dumb, but whatever. And while I don't mind watching the movies in the PSVR headset, I would rather not have to, because it's bulky. Like I said, and I have to hook all this other stuff up, and it's a pain in the butt. So I was like, if I can find like some kind of a 3D, like a small 3D television, like I remember there's that one for the PS3 that was released back in like 2011 or 2012 or something like that, the PS3 3D TV, that would be ideal. But whatever, I hear they're expensive. So we're watching this Gaming Together channel at Ryan's house, and they're talking about the stuff. So this store, the store shuts down completely the weekend of the convention, because they essentially bring their entire store to the convention. They get their own room. They're not in the vendor's hall. They have their own room. They bring the arcade games, the arcade cabinets that they have at the store there. Every single game that's in that store gets brought to the convention. So they're talking about some of the better, cooler things that they have on hand that they're bringing. And while we're watching, they talk about, hey, we have one of the PlayStation 3 3D TVs. And I look at Ryan and I was like, well, I know what I'm buying when I get there. And he's like, oh, you're looking for one of those? I'm like, I was just thinking to myself last week or earlier in the week that I would love to buy something like that. And he's like, well, now you have an excuse to do it, and you know that there's going to be there. And the thing is, Ryan also told me that Gaming Together was, or not Gaming Together, Retro Dimension, the store that I keep on talking about that has the eBay prices, had one in box, and they were charging $500 for it. And I was like, how much are they charging for this one? They were charging half price for this one. And I said, I'll go for this one. I almost knocked over all my 3D printed stuff. I almost had a boo-boo. So what happened? So I say to Ryan, the moment we walk into the convention on Saturday, I'm going straight down to that Gaming Together room. And if the TV is there, I am buying it. So I walk into the booth, or I walk into the room, circle around it, looking for it. I find it. It's still here. I'm like, great. It has a pair of 3D glasses to go with it. And the battery operated ones that are rechargeable. I'm like, great. It even has the PlayStation branded pouch to protect the glasses. Great. So I asked there's like this young woman walking around that side of the table. I'm like, I'm really interested in this PlayStation TV. Does it come? Is everything included? And she goes, yeah, it comes with the glasses. It has the plug and everything. You just need to get an HDMI plug and hook it up to like a PlayStation 3, or just hook it up like a regular television. And I go, does it come with a remote? And she goes, a what? And I go, does it come with a remote? And she's like, I don't think it has a remote. I'm like, it should come with a remote. How else am I supposed to be turning it on and off? And she goes, well, there are buttons on the back. And I'm like, that's fine and dandy, but shouldn't it come with a remote? She goes, I think you use the PlayStation 3 controller as the remote, because you're supposed to hook it up to a PS3. I'm like, whatever. I can always find like a PlayStation remote of some kind. It's not a big deal. As long as it has the glasses. And I go, does it work? And she goes, yes, we tested it yesterday at the store. We played a couple of 3D games, like, Uncharted 3 is 3D. The Green Lantern, Rise of the Lanterns, or I think that's the name of the game, is in 3D. Batman Arkham Asylum, I think, is in 3D. I looked it up, and there's actually probably like 40 games available in 3D for the PS3. She's like, we tried a couple of PS3 games that were in 3D, and they work fine. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll buy it. So I buy it. At first, I say, can I test it out? And then one of the guys that's like the co-owner of the store goes, we're kind of at a premium for like place to plug things in here, so we really can't test it. I'm like, you want me to pay this amount of money for this thing? It was like $250. I'm like, you want me to pay this amount of money this thing and not know if it works or not? He goes, it works. Trust me. We're going to give you a receipt. So they treat everything that they sell there as if they're selling it at their store. You buy it, they give you the receipt. And like, if it doesn't work, I would just bring it back. So he's like, if it doesn't work, just bring it back tomorrow. I'm like, okay, fine. So I buy it. And I'm like, I'm not carrying this around the convention, obviously. I'm going to go take it up to my car in the parking garage. So I walk throughout the whole hotel, across a skywalk, into the elevator, take it upstairs to the floor of the garage I'm in, and I have to go through these double doors to get to my car. So I'm holding it like this, basically. I have like my one arm was wrapped around the front of it like this, and my other arm was holding it from the back underneath, right? So I let go with this arm to push the door open. I squeeze through the door, and then as I move my hand back under, the door, like the wind catches the door and slams into my arm. My arm slams into the television, and the television falls. Luckily, since I had my arm wrapped around it, I kind of still had a grip on it, and I was standing in the doorway. The floor had these like rubber mats on each side of the doorway entrance. So the TV like falls. I still kind of have a grip on the bottom of it. It hits the corner, hits that mat, bounces back up towards me, and I catch it with the other hand. And I'm like, shit. And I look up, and there's like a couple at their car right across from the doorway, and they're looking at me like, oh, that just happened. Like, this guy probably just paid a lot for that television. He just broke it. And I'm like, shit. Well, I have no way to test it right now, so I guess I got to test it at Ryan's tonight after the convention. And like I said, I have the receipt. I can always bring it back and say, it didn't work. So we tested it that night. We put in Uncharted 3, which he had on hand, and it took a little while to get it set up. We had to charge the glasses up a little bit. They charge with like a mini USB. And yeah, it looked really good, and it still worked. There was no problems. There's a little chip in the side right above the speaker on some of the plastic, but I mean, outside of that, it works perfectly fine. And then since I came home with this, I have been watching some 3D Blu-rays on it. I watched Resident Evil Afterlife, which I still think is the best 3D movie to watch at home. It has the best 3D I've ever seen in one of these 3D Blu-rays. I also watched a really shitty one from the 80s called Treasure of the Four Crowns, which I've been putting off watching because, number one, it's a shitty movie from Canon. Talking about Canon earlier. But also because I didn't want to have to whip out the PS4 and the PSVR for that. I also watched a little bit of Valerian, and the City of a Thousand Planets, and what else? I was going to watch Jaws 3, but I ended up putting... What was the other one? Oh, Avatar 2. I put Avatar 2 in 3D because I haven't seen it since I bought it in 3D. And I was like, wow, this actually looks really, really good. So here it is. Number one, here are the glasses, the pair of 3D glasses that it came with. And it charges up on the top here. You just have to lift this little thing up. And there's a little charging station in there. There's a little switch hidden on the side of the inside of the glasses to turn them on and off. It also came with, like I said, the PlayStation branded little protector sack. And here's the television itself. It's not huge. It's like a 27-inch, I want to say. And it works perfectly fine. If you look at this top corner, you can see it's a little chipped. But that's the only thing that happened from me dropping it. And it works perfectly fine. I've had this set up in my living room right next to my 4K television. I've been watching 3D Blu-rays just to see how they look, and it's making me want to watch all of my 3D Blu-rays again now that I can watch it without having to have this massive contraption hanging on my head and have to hook all this shit up and just have all these wires coming off my head. Now I just have to put these little glasses on. I look super cool, like I'm right out of the 80s. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. They actually kind of squeeze the sides of your head, but they're supposed to like try to grip. I also have a big fat head. But yeah, that is it for the convention. So like I said, my friend Justin came up on Sunday to not really shop, but just kind of like hang out and like just look around the vendors hall. We went into the arcade, looked around, didn't stay in there very long. It's mostly the same stuff every year. It's all the same consoles hooked up for you to play. We actually sat down because my knee started bothering me again, that I have like from an injury when I was a teenager. So I was like, I need to sit down for a little bit and like rest. So we sat down. We played Gauntlet Legends on a Dreamcast that was set up there. And the moment we stopped, we're like, sanitize those hands. You don't know who's been rubbing their ass or their nose or whatever, and then grab those controllers. So we like had to sanitize. And we're like, all the games are exactly the same. All the consoles are exactly the same. The only thing that's different is the new pinball game they announced at the con, which was Houdini, and we didn't really care. We looked around a little bit. I looked at the Atari Age table. Tim Lapatino was working the table again. And there's a bunch of like new games for the Atari 2600, but I'm like, I already bought all my games. I'm good. If I had bought any more, I wouldn't have been able to get that RBI baseball. And like, went into the Dungeons and Dragons room on the first floor, looked around. I ran into Brett Weiss. He had a table. Like, it was weird the way that the like YouTube celebs were set up this year. They had a bunch in the vendors hall like normal. So John Riggs and John Hancock were there. I said hey to them on Sunday. I walked past their tables like, hey guys. The Nostalgia Critic was there. It was like Rob and I can't remember their name. They're pieces of shit. Fuck them. I think that was it for like celebs. I know that the Tom Kitzrow, whatever, or Tim Kitzrow, the guy that's the voice from the NBA Jam games, was there. A couple of developers were there. I had actually brought stuff to get some of the Atari 2600 developers to sign. Dan and Gary Kitchen, who I met last year and had some stuff signed, were back, and I brought some more games for them to sign. But like over the course of like Saturday, I was like, I don't feel like getting in line for these guys and like asking for signatures, even though they were free. I was just like, I just don't want to do it. I just didn't bother. I was like, whatever. And then there was also a panel I was planning on going to. The people who created Tempest 2000 on the Jaguar were there, and that's my favorite game on the Jaguar. So I'm like, I'll bring my copy of Tempest 2000 and I'll go to their panel and then I'll get them to sign my game. Totally forgot about it. Didn't even remember to do it, to go to the panel. And by the end of the day, I was like, oh yeah, I was supposed to do that, wasn't I? I think the only other people I ran into like YouTuber wise was Tiger Chainsaw and one of his friends. Never saw TJ, never saw Megamat, which I was bummed about. I wanted to chit chat with them a little bit. But yeah, once my friend and I did our laps around the vendors hall on Sunday, checked out a couple of the other rooms, checked out a couple of other vendors. Basically, it was like 4:30, and he was like, the convention's closing in like a half an hour. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I just kind of want to go home. And he was like, yeah, I think I'm done too. So like we called it quits. So that was probably the longest I'd stayed on a Sunday, outside of having a panel to talk to talk on at the convention. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, it was a good convention. I was bummed about the whole dinner thing on Sunday because I was really embarrassed and I was really mad. So I probably wasn't the best person to talk to. I remember Chum Nasty kept trying to talk to me. And I would just kind of give like real quick answers. I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool. I was just so mad. Next year will be better. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Midwest Gaming Classic. Like I said, I didn't buy as much stuff as I normally would. Number one, because I bought a television and I bought a bunch of really high priced games. Normally I'm trying to go for like as many, like when I was going for the Saturn stuff last year, I was getting a bunch of them really cheap. This year I went for kind of expensive stuff. So yeah, if I didn't buy the TV, I would have been able to get something else like that was kind of pricey, but we'll see. Anyway, that is it for tonight. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me. There's still 3 people watching. I bet one of them is Peter and he's sleeping. But if you've actually hung out the entire time, I commend you. You're awesome. I would normally stream a game tonight instead of this, but because this Thursday is the last day of the month, I did this instead of streaming more of Anno Mutationum. I'll be back next Thursday to stream more of Anno Mutationum, maybe finish the game. What's up, King Voxel? Sadly, I'm about to finish the stream. It's about to end. Like I said, next Thursday, I'll be streaming more Anno Mutationum on the PS5 at 9 p.m. Central, so keep an eye out for that. And then I want to say in 3 weeks is the next episode of my Dungeons and Dragons campaign that will be streaming live, Tides of Flame. Keep an eye on the socials for that. And I will see you all next time. Thanks for coming and hanging out. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll talk to you later. Chris of Midlife Crisis Media out. Have a good night, everybody.